Chapter 277. It's him. This Kang Tae-chu is invincible. Everyone exclaimed in amazement. But that's impossible. Someone said confidently, Guru Qing Lian has many followers and possesses telekinesis. He is as powerful as Lin Zhenyu. This battle was like 7 or 8 Lin Zhenyu attacking him at the same time. It's true. I have a video for you to watch. The Observer immediately released a short video that was only 3 minutes long. The video was shot some distance away from the summit of Mount Everest. The camera was also shaky. It was nighttime and there was a snowstorm, so the video was not very clear. But it was still possible to see the shocking process of the battle. Oh my God! Even the cannon god could not kill him. Is he even human? He can fly. Even Ba Tu the Black Wing is not as fast as him. He is like Superman. He knows how to cast spells. He killed Guru Qing Lian with one strike. When the overlords clicked on the video, they were shocked and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. If not for the fact that the video was posted by the Observer, they would have suspected that the video was a fake. Finally, the Observer made the final decision, making the final footnote for this pinnacle battle. This battle on the summit of Mount Everest is of great significance. Kang Tae-chu's influence has spread beyond the borders of China to Southeast Asia. He is now qualified to fight Wang Chongyan. After this battle, the Chinese Club of Singapore has lost 3 of its most powerful members. How can Wang Chongyan tolerate this? My guess is that Kang Tae-chu and Wang Chongyan of the Chinese Club of Singapore are going to have a great battle. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell into dead silence. Wang Chongyan of the Chinese Club of Singapore. He was the king of Singapore. He was the number 1 in Southeast Asia and the top 20 on the heaven roll. He was one of the most powerful overlords in the history of Huaxia. He was on par with Yi Zhantian's father. Rumor had it that he was half a step away from the immortal state. Even Lin Zhenyu had to greet him respectfully. And now, Kang Tae-chu, who was still unknown a year ago, actually had the qualifications to fight with Wang Zhongyan. All the experts felt suffocated, and they felt as if a new star was slowly rising, shining brightly. While the entire dark world was in an uproar because of the battle at the peak of Mount Everest, after 3 days of travel, Jiang Tian arrived in Linzhou and returned to King's No. 1 villa. Only when you have loved, do you know how to cherish. Only when you have lost, do you know how to cherish. Home, his beloved wife. These were the things that he longed for the most. Hubby, you're finally back. Are you all right? Zhao Xueqing immediately came up to him. With tears in her eyes, she carefully looked at Jiang Tian. Seeing his pale face, she couldn't help but worry. I'm fine, aren't I perfectly fine? Jiang Tian smiled as he stretched out his arms and spun in a circle. But, your complexion, Zhao Xueqing knew that even if Jiang Tian had gone through untold hardships and narrowly escaped death, he would still say, I'm fine, I'm fine. She looked at Hua Qingtian and Wei Feilong and asked softly, Mr. Hua, Mr. Wei, you accompanied my husband all the way. It's been hard on you. Did you encounter any danger? It's fine. Mount Everest is a remote place. When we went there, there was no one. We got it quickly. Looking at Jiang Tian's warning look, Hua Qingtian hurriedly said. Wasn't there a very powerful monk? Zhao Xueqing knew that he was lying, so she asked. Wei Feilong hurriedly laughed and said, that monk is an enlightened senior monk. He is kind and benevolent. Master Kang moved him emotionally and reasoned with him, and he gave in. After all, he is an enlightened senior monk. You know how to reason. Zhao Xueqing looked at Jiang Tian in astonishment. She was skeptical. Of course, I'm very reasonable. My ability to persuade people is excellent. Jiang Tian looked pleased, but he snorted coldly in his heart. Who can reason with their fists? All right, Qinger, stop talking nonsense. I've already brought back the new flower. Jiang Tian smiled and took out the new flower from the jade bottle in his backpack. Hua Qingtian and Wei Feilong had a funny feeling. It was like a cowardly husband who was being controlled by his wife and had to hand over his salary. This is the new flower. Qing'er's delicate body couldn't help but tremble. With tears in her eyes, she said softly, "If I eat it, I can cultivate." As soon as she saw the new flower, she smelled a refreshing fragrance. The abundant spirit qi that was naturally emitted made her feel refreshed, as if she had been enlightened. She felt very comfortable. What was even more amazing was that she felt as if she was connected to this flower. It's not that you can cultivate. You've been cultivating this entire time, and your current level has already far surpassed mine. Once you consume the new flower, you'll be able to unleash your cultivation. I'll have to rely on you in the future. Jiang Tian said with a gratified expression. He had just checked the spell formation around the villa. After more than a year of cultivation, Qing'er had absorbed all of the spiritual energy within a radius of a few kilometers. Even the spiritual nature of the spell formation had disappeared. Furthermore, she had swallowed many spirit pills and elixirs as if they were jelly beans. It could be said that her current cultivation was already at the late-stage qi refinement stage, and she was even more powerful than him. The image of Qing'er unleashing her cultivation appeared in Jiang Tian's mind. He was very much looking forward to it and was even a little excited. What? Madam's cultivation is even more powerful than Master Kang's? Hua Qingtian was stunned and felt dizzy. He felt as if his brain wasn't big enough. Just how strong was he? Yes, my family has always been dominated by strong women and weak men. There's no other way. Jiang Tian sighed with a smile. Madam is a supreme beauty, and Master Kang is a dragon among men. Wei Feilong exclaimed in admiration. He clapped and laughed. From now on, Master Kang and Madam will travel the world together like a celestial couple. It'll be a beautiful story. Master, don't you need to refine this new flower into a pill? Shen Mange asked softly. No need. Jiang Tian waved his hand and smiled. This new flower is a spiritual item of heaven and earth, and it's naturally compatible with Qing'er's body. If I refine it, I'll lose its medicinal properties, so I'll just swallow it. It's so big, I can't eat it. Should I make a cold dish, stir-fry, or hot pot? Qing'er smiled mischievously. It was rare for her to crack a joke. In an instant, it was as if hundreds of flowers had bloomed in the world. It was much brighter and more beautiful. She was like a 16-year-old girl, bright, charming, and cute. Hua Qingtian and Wei Feilong were stunned. They quickly looked away, not daring to look again. Any method will lose its medicinal properties. The best way is to break it into pieces and swallow it directly. Jiang Tian immediately found a juicer and broke the DNV flower. He then mixed in some of the 5 elements spiritual liquid that he had collected before and poured it into the juicer. A moment later, a bowl of bright red juice was poured into a white jade cup that Jiang Tian had carved with Dao patterns and runes. At this time, the spiritual qi was even richer, and a delicate fragrance wafted in the air. The cup emitted multicolored haze, and the medicinal liquid was full of strange phenomena. It was as if a divine phoenix was soaring in the air, and it was even letting out waves of phoenix cries. It was unforgettable and shocking. As expected of a peerless medicine. The ice spring that flows through its roots is called the catalytic liquid by many powerhouses. What about the main body? Hua Qingtian and Wei Feilong sighed. They were very envious, but they knew that Jiang Tian would not share a drop with them. That's right, in Master Kang's eyes, nothing was more important than his wife. They had to wait. Hubby, can I drink it now? Qing'er's slender hand trembled slightly. She carefully held the jade cup and looked nervously at Jiang Tian. Drink it. Seeing him nod slightly, Qing'er took a deep breath and drank the medicinal liquid in one gulp. At this moment, Zhao Xueqing only felt that the qi and blood in her body were boiling. Every cell and every drop of blood was jumping, growing, and cheering. Streams of powerful aura condensed in her acupoints. They first condensed into raindrops, then into streams, and finally converged in her meridians. They were already surging and roaring like a torrential river. An unprecedented sense of power filled every inch of her flesh and blood, and every meridian. I feel. I can even fly. Zhao Xueqing said in a daze. In everyone's eyes, an extremely powerful aura suddenly appeared on Zhao Xueqing's body. That aura rose steadily, causing the space around her to tremble violently. It was like rippling water that was blurry and indeterminate. So strong. Shen Mange stumbled back with a frightened look in her eyes as she felt a strong momentum pushing out from her. Even Hua Qingtian and Wei Feilong were suppressed to the point that their bones creaked and their qi and blood surged in their chests. They looked at each other in astonishment and also took a few steps back. Finally, the powerful aura was like a nuclear explosion. With a bang, it violently spread in all directions. Suddenly, the surrounding tables and chairs were all sent flying more than 10 meters away. The paintings on the walls were all turned into powder. Many porcelain and jade bottles on the antique shelves first had cracks, and then they all shattered with a series of explosive sounds. Hua Qingtian and Wei Feilong were directly sent flying into the courtyard. Fortunately, they didn't faint. The power of the mistress is actually so terrifying. I almost vomited blood from the shock. They raised their heads with difficulty and looked at Zhao Xueqing in the living room with fear in their eyes. However, they saw an even more shocking scene. At this time, Qing'er's eyes were slightly closed. Her jade face was radiant, and there were thousands of auspicious rays of light lingering around her body. She looked incomparably holy, like the goddess of mercy who saved everyone. Break! Suddenly, her beautiful eyebrows slightly wrinkled, as if she felt some pain. She raised her head and shouted. Behind her, Qi La. Like two colorful lightning bolts, two 10-meter-long golden rock-like wings stretched out, followed by a colorful phoenix tail. The golden feathers seemed to be cast in gold, the blue feathers were like ice crystals, the red feathers were like flames, and the white feathers were like snow. They were brilliant and dazzling. It was unknown what they were made of, but they were vivid and lifelike. Then, a red phoenix's shadow appeared on Zhao Xueqing's body and merged with her. The phoenix's eyes were wide open, and its tail was swaying. Its wings were flapping slightly with a powerful aura. It was indomitable, and it had a peerless majesty that looked down on the world. The immortal body of 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 the immortal. Seeing this, Jiang Tian was shocked, and his face was filled with ecstasy and anticipation. Chapter 278. Divine Power, Lingxi Finger. It can destroy a peak transcendent state cultivator with one finger. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of anticipation. At the same time, he also used his immortal will to help Zhao Xueqing awaken this divine power. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhao Xueqing absorbed the phoenix into her body. Her energy was even stronger. She stretched out her slender finger and pointed it in the air. There was a loud rumble. A lightning-like finger radiance shot out and smashed the fake mountain in the courtyard into powder. Wherever the finger aura passed, a 20-meter-long and 1-meter-wide mark appeared on the lawn and the road. Even the bluestone pavement seemed to have been dug up by an excavator. It was forcibly blasted open by the finger radiance, revealing fresh soil that was more than a meter deep. It was a shocking sight. This finger aura can destroy an armored car. Hua Qingtian and Wei Feilong murmured to themselves in shock. Jiang Tian was overjoyed. Qing'er's Lingxi finger was much more powerful than his. He glanced at Hu Qingtian and Wei Feilong and said with a smile, "The next one will be even more powerful. Be careful. Oh my God, run." Hearing this, the two of them screamed and jumped up 100 meters away. They watched from afar, afraid that they would be caught in the crossfire. It has the divine power, Li Fire Phoenix Eyes. Once used, it can burn the sky and melt everything in the world. Jiang Tian used his immortal will to speak with anticipation. Qing'er's clear and beautiful eyes flickered for a while. First, two needle-like golden dots appeared. Then, they turned into two golden flowers that suddenly bloomed. Finally, suddenly, there was a crashing sound. Two crimson flames shot out from the pair of limpid eyes, shooting 10 meters away and enveloping the void. Oh my God, this is definitely 10 times more powerful than Lin Zhenyu's lava fire poison. Wei Feilong looked at the rolling flames, and the shock in his eyes reached a point where it couldn't be any greater. With such power, Mistress is indeed a supreme beauty. She is like a god. Hu Qingtian's face was full of reverence, longing, and fear as he sighed, as if he had seen a goddess. Indeed, in this world, only Mistress is worthy of Grandmaster Jiang. Shen Mange thought deeply and muttered to herself with a shocked expression as she looked at the figure standing proudly. At this moment, he felt that Zhao Xueqing was truly like a goddess who looked down upon the world with disdain. Then, under the guidance of Jiang Tian's immortal will, Qing'er awakened a few more divine powers. It has the divine power of the phoenix awe-inspiring. Once used, it can suppress a transcendent master. It has the divine power of the phoenix heart art. It can bring the dead back to life, heal injuries, and cure poison. It has divine power of the 9 heavens. It's a movement technique that can shatter the void and achieve instantaneous movement. It's unfathomable and almost breaks the sound barrier. It has the divine power of the phoenix feather sky. The hidden weapon technique uses the true essence of the phoenix body to form a feather-shaped chi weapon. It can kill thousands of soldiers. Divine abilities awakened one after another. Even Jiang Tian felt shocked, a bit dumbstruck, unable to accept this. The stainless phoenix immortal physique was a physique that had been nurtured for 12 generations in the cultivation world. Although it had its drawbacks, making it difficult to stimulate one's cultivation, once one consumed the new flower to replenish their energy, they would be able to break through their shackles and suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The divine power of the deity body was almost instinctive. It could be used instantly and could kill people without leaving a trace. It was many times more powerful than Dharma spells and talismans. Even though Qing'er was not powerful enough and had only awakened less than 10 divine powers, she could definitely kill a transcendent master and even fight with a half-step immortal state warrior. As for iron body and inner force experts, in front of Qing'er, they were as insignificant as ants and dust. She could sweep them away with a wave of her hand. After Qing'er had used all the divine powers she had awakened so far. I didn't expect there to be such a powerful overlord in this world. Wei Feilong shook his head bitterly and heaved a sigh. I feel like I have wasted my decades of hard work. No wonder Master Kong went through so much trouble to find the new flower. It can make Mistress so powerful. Hu Qingtian was dumbfounded and dejected. Master Kong, Mistress is now more powerful than you. From now on, you will have no place in the family. Shen Mange finally came back to her senses. She suppressed the shock in her heart and teased Jiang Tian. I'm very happy, I'll be living off a woman from now on. Jiang Tian said with a mischievous smile. Hubby, please don't say that. I know you gave me all this. Zhao Xueqing's face was full of smiles. Her smile was very sweet and beautiful, but her beautiful eyes were full of tears. She stared deeply at Jiang Tian. Why are you crying? Jiang Tian gently wiped away her tears. Zhao Xueqing hugged Jiang Tian tightly and leaned her head on his neck. She cried with joy and said emotionally, I am very happy. I am very happy. It is not because I have become stronger, but because I finally have the qualifications to stand side by side with you. At this time, the sun was setting in the west. The particle-like golden light enveloped the two people tightly hugging each other. More than a year ago, on the beach of the Banquet of Bliss in Yangcheng, Jiang Tian said, "Then let's cultivate together." And now, with this promise, he climbed to the top of Mount Everest and picked the 1,000-year-old Di flower. It was like a ray of light that dispelled the long loneliness and darkness. The dust cleared and the light dispersed. The light illuminated the mountains and rivers. November 12, 2008. Zhao Xueqing swallowed the 1,000-year-old Di flower. She seized the good fortune of heaven and earth and changed her fate. The immortal body of the stainless phoenix maiden was successfully awakened and she became a true cultivator. She stepped into the 6th level of qi refining and looked down on the world. She was a supreme beauty. The curtain of night fell and the lights were warm. Jiang Tian, who had changed his clothes, walked out of the living room and said indifferently, "I am going out to buy groceries. Today I will make some of my best dishes. Let's have a good drink and reward Brother Hua and Brother Wei." Master Kong is going to buy groceries and cook in person. Hua Qingtian and Wei Feilong, who had drunk 7 or 8 times from the juice machine, were stunned. They really couldn't imagine that Jiang Tian would buy groceries and cook. This was really too down to earth. Master Kong is cooking for us. What kind of favor and honor is this? Let's go, let's go. The two hurriedly followed. Master Kong is going to buy groceries. If we don't go, it doesn't seem right. Soon, the three of them arrived at a nearby supermarket and began to buy groceries. Suddenly, Jiang Tian's body swayed. He hurriedly covered his mouth with a paper towel. Hua Qingtian, who was beside him, immediately supported him. He frowned and said, "Master Kong, are you still not feeling well?" Jiang Tian frowned and threw the blood-stained paper towel into the trash can. He said indifferently, "Several meridians and acupoints are injured. Now I can only use 1/10 of my original cultivation. I am afraid I will have to go into seclusion for 3 months, don't buy too much. Let's go quickly." "Yeah, you should rest more." Hua Qingtian and Wei Feilong hurriedly persuaded him. They were very anxious. "I came out just to spit out this mouthful of blood. Now that Qing'er has divine sense, it will be very difficult to hide from her eyes." Jiang Tian said indifferently. He opened the bottle of mineral water and swallowed some pills. Then, he said indifferently, "Let's go." After Jiang Tian left, a tall man wearing a red hat and a red vest suddenly walked to the trash can. He bent down and took out the paper towel that Jiang Tian threw away. He carefully looked at it and smelled it. "He's injured." At this moment, he straightened his body. Under the red hat, a trace of killing intent flashed in his blue eyes. "Report to the chief. This should be the best time for our tombstone to make a move. $500 million is a windfall even if it's divided equally among a dozen people." His heart was moved. He hurriedly walked out of the supermarket and quickly disappeared into the rolling crowd. Master, Sister Qing'er. The next day, Jiang Tian was nourishing his body. Suddenly, Tang Linglong walked quickly into the villa and shouted happily. Tang Linglong was wearing a camouflage combat uniform and high-top combat boots. Her hair was tied into a neat ponytail. She looked valiant and mighty. "Hee, little girl, you're doing well in fighting dragon. Congratulations on your promotion. I'll treat you to a meal next time." Jiang Tian looked at her epaulette and smiled faintly. There was a trace of gratification on his face. Last year, on the day of old Master Jiang Changgeng's birthday, the whole Tang family came to offer birthday gifts and a red coral. However, during that birthday banquet, old Master Tang also asked Jiang Tian for permission to let Tang Linglong join Fighting Dragon and let Jiang Tian make the decision. Jiang Tian gladly agreed at that time. The little girl did not like to wear red clothes but to be armed. Joining Fighting Dragon had always been her dream. Moreover, to her, the best experience was to fight and kill. It was obvious that after a year of experience, Tang Linglong's cultivation was much stronger than before. She had perfected the Haoran physical tempering art. Her breath was long and her true vitality was vigorous. She was about to enter the real qi refining stage. Moreover, looking at her epaulet, she was now a senior colonel. She should be the captain of Fighting Dragon. The Tang family finally had a successor. Yes, I used to teach Fighting Dragon. When I joined, Qing Tian gave up her position and I became the captain of Fighting Dragon. Tang Linglong smiled sweetly and chatted with Jiang Tian and his wife. Suddenly, her face turned serious and she frowned. Master, I have something important to report to you. Say it. Master. Tang Linglong did not say it. Instead, she looked at Zhao Xueqing awkwardly. Oh, you're afraid that your master's wife will be worried? There's no need for that. She's a cultivator now. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. He felt a little proud. Her strength was not inferior to his. Ah, master's wife has become a cultivator. Tang Linglong was overjoyed. Only then did she notice the change in Zhao Xueqing's temperament. She seemed to be more dignified and imposing. At that moment, she told Chen Xiaobei everything. She said worriedly, Master, our military's red hat experts broke into the dark web and intercepted a message. Someone is offering a reward of $500 million for your head. My head is so valuable. Jiang Tian said with a smile that was not a smile, $500 million. Hua Qing Tian and Wei Feilong were shocked. They were both dumbfounded. Money moved people. $500 million was equivalent to nearly 4 billion Hua Xia yuan in 2008. Such a large sum of money could make many desperados move. Who offered the reward? Jiang Tian frowned. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 279. Jiang Tian was not afraid of thieves stealing, but he was afraid of thieves thinking about him. Now that Jiang Tian had a big family and business, he was no longer alone. The Jiang family, the Medicine King Group, and Lingnan had his own people and businesses everywhere. Although these forces couldn't harm him and Qing'er, casually wreaking havoc was enough to annoy them. In an instant, he thought of many possibilities. Could it be the Singapore Chinese Society, the Japanese Cherry Blossom Society, or the Big Circle Gang? Master, the other party is Hidden Flower. They did not disclose the identity of the investor, but the funds have been transferred to the dark net. Once the killer succeeds, the dark net will be the middleman to pay. Tang Linglong shook her head and said, the dark net is the world's most mysterious hacker organization. The person behind it is called Hacker Robin Hood, but it's just a code name. No one knows his real identity. Even their office location is unknown. Oh, I see, Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, don't worry. Your master's wife and I will deal with everything. She just needs a chance to practice. Qing'er was gentle and kind. Usually, even killing chickens and fish would be done by Jiang Tian. But a cultivator was bound to go against the heavens and kill all the way. Only by going through the training of killing could she cultivate the heart of a powerhouse. Master, War Dragon wants to help you kill these killers. Tang Linglong took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, this time, it's a big deal. Almost all the underworld is attracted by the $500 million. Tombstone, Scarlet Totem, Butterfly Skeleton, Sky Eye, Blackwater, and other killers and mercenary organizations are all going to take action. You're in a combat suit and armed to the teeth. You must have a mission, right? Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Master, don't worry about that. Anyway, it's very troublesome this time. I can't just ignore it. Do I need you to protect me? Jiang Tian smiled. Tang Linglong wanted to say something but stopped. Alright, stop sneaking around outside, come in. Jiang Tian suddenly said with a smile. Disciple greets Master Kong. Suddenly, Qing Tian, tyrannical dragon, fox, and more than a dozen battle dragons walked in and greeted Jiang Tian. At this moment, Cheng Tian said in distress, "Captain, we can't. The order given to us is to go to the northeast to intercept Xiao Bin." Xiao Bin. He's still alive. He actually wants to come to Huaxia. What does he want? Hua Qingtian turned pale with fright. Wei Feilong also looked uneasy. Xiao Bin was the #1 grandmaster in the northeast. However, he was defeated by Yi Zhantian in the long formation operation at the end of the 1990s and fled to the Siberian plateau. However, veteran grandmasters like Hua Qingtian knew. Back then, Xiao Bin was even more powerful than Lin Zhenyu. Yi Zhantian could not defeat him at all. Later, when the military saw that Xiao Bin was no match for Yi Zhantian, they used firearms to attack him. Thousands of cannons were fired at the same time, and Xiao Bin was seriously injured. Knowing that he would not be able to gain the upper hand even if he continued to fight, he fled to Russia. Well, I heard that he has been cooperating with the Russian military these years. His cultivation has become stronger. Cheng Tian said with a solemn face. Then I'm afraid he is already half a step away from the divine realm. Maybe even the real divine realm. Hua Qingtian and Wei Feilong were shocked again. This time, he is going to make a comeback and destroy the martial arts world in Huaxia. Especially the Long Formation and Yi Zhantian, they are his targets. Cheng Tian said, "We have received information that he may set off at any time during this period. The order from the higher-ups is that we must arrive at the northeast border police station within 3 days. Once we find him, we will kill him without mercy." "Then why don't you hurry over?" Jiang Tian frowned and looked at Tang Linglong. He said earnestly, "Linglong, you have to understand that military orders are unalterable. It is the duty of a soldier to obey orders. You must obey orders without any compromise." Sensing the reproach in Jiang Tian's tone, Tang Linglong felt wronged and anxious. Her eyes were red and she said tearfully, "Master, I'm worried about you. I'm afraid that I will never see you again. Hurry up." Jiang Tian waved his hand impatiently. Tang Linglong lowered her head and remained silent for a long time. Then she blinked gently and a few drops of crystal tears fell to the ground. "Let's go. Master is so powerful. He will be fine." Cheng Tian pulled Tang Linglong and comforted her softly. Tang Linglong stood up and glared at Jiang Tian angrily. Then she held her head high and walked away. They left the villa and got into the car. Suddenly, Xiao Xueqing rushed over. "Linglong, wait." She took out dozens of protective jade talismans and handed them to Tang Linglong and the others. "Master gave them to you for protection. You must wear them all the time." "Thank you, Master and Mistress. Master is so nice to us. This must be a legendary magical artifact." Cheng Tian and the others smiled and thanked her. They scrambled to wear the talismans on their necks and wrists. Tang Linglong, on the other hand, was motionless. Her face was expressionless as she stared blankly ahead. "Don't be angry with him. He has been very worried about you." Xiao Xueqing comforted her softly. She sighed in her heart. Strong enemies were coming, but your master asked Wei Feilong and Hua Qingtian, the 2 seniors, to follow you all the way and protect you secretly. He didn't even care about the Jiang family in Jinling at this moment. "Thank Master for me." Tang Linglong lowered her head and finally said something. After the car started and drove far away, Tang Linglong suddenly turned her head and looked at King's #1 villa at the top of Lion Peak. She could no longer control her emotions. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she sobbed silently. "Master, I'm afraid that I will never see you again. I'm afraid that when I see you again, you'll be a cold corpse." Her heart was filled with resentment. "Master, you only have Sister Qing'er in your heart. You only know that Sister Qing'er is worried about you and loves you, but you don't know how important you are in my heart. What should we do about Jiang Tian? It seems that a lot of enemies are coming for us. Back in the villa's living room, Qing'er looked at Jiang Tian and said worriedly. Jiang Tian pondered for a moment. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, Qing'er, you already have the cultivation, but you need to learn how to use it. How about I leave these enemies to you? Ah. Kill them. Qing'er's delicate body trembled slightly. Her face was as pale as a sheet. She was originally gentle and benevolent. Killing people. She didn't even dare to think about it before. There's a demon in your heart that needs to be removed. Although Jiang Tian couldn't bear to do it, he knew that this kind of training was necessary. He said in a deep voice, if you don't kill them, they will kill you and me. A strong person needs to kill. Hubby, I understand. Qing'er sighed, but her eyes flashed with determination. Mange, bring Ghost Kick, Li Zhenwei, Qiu Gong, and the others to Jinling quickly. Contact Yi Ziwei and strictly guard the Jiang family's property. All the forces, the police force day and night. Join forces with Yu Chang and Su Ruocheng's forces. Don't you need me to teach you? Jiang Tian ordered. Yes. Master, this servant understands. Shen Mangu responded and simply turned around to leave. Wait, here's a protective jade talisman. Jiang Tian stood up and patted a jade talisman in her hand. He patted her head and smiled. You've worked hard these days. Thank you, Master. Shen Mange blushed. She lowered her eyes and a trace of shyness appeared in her heart. She turned and left. She looked very calm, but her heart was in a daze. When she walked out of the door, she tripped on the doorstep and almost fell. She heard Jiang Tian laughing behind her. You're at the qi refining stage. Shen Mange blushed even more. She lowered her head and hurried away. She's really worked hard. You should treat her better in the future. Zhao Xueqing held Jiang Tian's hand and smiled. I didn't mistreat her. You're doing well today. You look happy. Why don't you take her in as a servant girl to warm your bed? Qing'er said with a smile. Don't dig a hole for me. I hate it. Jiang Tian was shocked and hurried to the kitchen to cook. After the meal, Jiang Tian sat cross-legged on the sofa in the living room, refining the healing medicine. Qing'er was watching a TV program on the side. The two of them chatted from time to time. It was a rare moment of peace and happiness. Soon, it was late at night. Qing'er came out of the bathroom in silk pajamas. She smiled and said, Hubby, you're tired. Rest early. Ha, it's still early. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. He guessed that the assassins would be here soon. Qing'er's face suddenly flushed red. She lowered her head slightly and her beautiful eyes were covered with a faint layer of water vapor. She said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, Hubby, I can cultivate now. There's no need to maintain my primordial yin body for cultivation anymore, That's true. No wonder she dressed up so beautifully. Jiang Tian suddenly understood. He scratched his head and smiled. Then let's go to sleep. It seems that someone is coming. Qing'er frowned. She looked very unhappy and a little angry. Her divine sense was not inferior to Jiang Tian's. She had already sensed that a powerful figure was leaping up and down like a grasshopper, invading the number 1 king's villa from all directions. Mr. Jiang, I've heard a lot about you. I'm here to visit you today. It seems that I'm a little late. I hope I won't disturb you and your wife's rest. Sure enough, a cold voice sounded. A figure in a black robe appeared in the living room like a ghost. His head and face were enveloped in a cloak, and his skin was pale without the slightest trace of blood. His face was enveloped in numerous strange blood-colored markings that were densely wriggling like earthworms, and it looked extremely terrifying and horrifying. He emitted a bloodthirsty and gloomy aura. The temperature in the living room suddenly dropped. It was as if they were in the coldest winter. Ice crystals appeared on the glass. A terrible aura of death spread out and shrouded the whole room. The delicate roses in the vase withered and fell as if their vitality had been taken away. Who are you? Zhao Xueqing frowned. She summoned her courage and said unhappily, get out now. Otherwise, I'll kill you. The black-robed man sat down on the sofa opposite Jiang Tian. He smiled and said, Master Kong, I heard that you're injured, right? Do you want me to help you and make you immortal? Oh. How do you make me immortal? Jiang Tian looked at him with interest and smiled. Have you heard of the blood race? The black-robed man smiled. The blood race, also known as the vampires, is the greatest race in the world. Once you've been infected with the noble blood of the blood race, you'll be immortal. You're from the blood race? Jiang Tian asked curiously. That's right. Other than the blood ancestor, his descendants are divided into duke, marquis, count, viscount, and man according to the order of inheritance and strength. The black-robed man shrugged his shoulders. He was obviously sinister and evil, but strangely, he gave people a feeling of elegance. His blood-red lips opened slightly and he smiled. And I, Anthony, am a noble marquis of the blood race. Killing your transcendent experts is like child's play. If I suck a mouthful of your blood, your injuries will heal immediately. Not only will you not die, but you'll also evolve into a count and live for at least 300 years. Chapter 280. I didn't expect that the Blood Clan is still developing their descendants in Huaxia. Jiang Tian smiled and said disdainfully, but unfortunately, I am not interested in becoming a stinky bat like you who can't see the light and can only hide in the cave all day long. I want to bathe in the warm sunshine. At this time, he used his divine sense to sense that the blood of the black-robed man was very similar to that of the Blood Clan in the cultivation world. However, compared to the powerful Blood Clan, it was much weaker. It was like comparing a small snake to a giant python. Moreover, the Blood Clan on Earth could not see the sun, but the Blood Clan in the cultivation world were not afraid of the sun and could walk freely. Back then, the leader of the Blood Clan was killed by Jiang Tian. Now, several weaker Blood Clan members were nothing in Jiang Tian's eyes. Kang Taechu, you are really arrogant. Anthony was so angry that his body trembled. He pursed his thin red lips and said disdainfully, I know that you are very powerful, but you are not who you used to be. You have made too many enemies. You were besieged by the Southeast Asian masters at the top of Mount Everest and were seriously injured. Now, you are dying. How much cultivation do you have left? Iron body or internal force? Hehe, even if you are in the early stage of the transcendent state, you are just an ant in my eyes. You can only be my blood slave. So Jiang Tian is injured. Zhao Xueqing's heart skipped a beat. Her pretty face turned pale and was filled with worry. Although her divine sense was powerful, she knew too little about the cultivation world. Therefore, she did not see that Jiang Tian was very weak and seriously injured. Realizing this, she immediately stretched out her arms and stood in front of Jiang Tian. Staring at Anthony, she gritted her teeth and shouted angrily, You, get out of here. Don't touch my husband at all. Otherwise, I will do it. Ha, this is so interesting. The black-robed Anthony looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. Then, he restrained his smile and said with disdain, I heard that Grandmaster Jiang loves his wife very much, but I didn't expect that you can only let your woman protect you now. Alright, I'll turn you into my loyal blood slave now. The blood thrall of a Huaxia warrior with cultivation will definitely be even more powerful. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Anthony, it seems like his cultivation has really weakened. Let us, the Tombstone organization, finish him off. Suddenly, 7 or 8 figures of experts appeared in the living room. The golden-haired man in the lead laughed disdainfully. All 8 of them were wearing black tights and bulletproof vests. They also had anti-stun night vision goggles, pistols, rifles, and tactical sabers. They even had hand grenades. Death God, you can't kill him. I need a martial artist from Huaxia to be my blood slave. I've already reported it to the employer, and the employer thinks it's feasible. Anthony said with dissatisfaction. Honorable Mr. Earl, if you let Tombstone make the first move, I can promise to give you a bigger share of the reward. The Grim Reaper smiled politely, you take 300 million, and I only take 200 million. This should be fair, right? If we can't kill him, it won't be too late for Scarlet Totem to make the first move. Now that his cultivation has weakened and you have guns, there's no reason you can't kill him. Anthony snorted disdainfully at first, then said regretfully and gloomily, this is an inner strength expert, and he might even be a descendant of the transcendent state. I really can't accept this. The information about his injury was provided by us, Tombstone. The Grim Reaper smiled and said, moreover, Scarlet Totem and Tombstone will have more cooperation in the future. The two experts from the Dark World were bargaining and chattering. They basically treated Jiang Tian and his wife as dead people. They had no power to resist them at all. Are you done yet? Seeing this, Zhao Xueqing was so angry that she stomped her feet and scolded, hurry up and leave, or I'll kill you. Beautiful lady, don't worry. We've already discussed it. Let's do it. With the Grim Reaper's order, one of the assassins raised his pistol, aimed at Jiang Tian's forehead, and fired brazenly. Bang! With a loud thud, Jiang Tian's body trembled, forcefully blocking this spear. Of course, he had the ability to dodge the shot, but he wanted to stimulate Qing'er's battle and killing intent. Jiang Tian knew that for an ordinary person like Qing'er, killing was a psychological barrier that was difficult to overcome. In his previous life, even if his family was destroyed and his relatives were killed, he still had a monstrous hatred for this world. When he first killed someone, he vomited for a long time, almost vomiting bile. Hubby, are you okay? Zhao Xueqing threw herself in front of Jiang Tian, knelt on the ground, held his forehead, and asked worriedly and concernedly. I'm fine. Qing'er, do you understand the truth of this world now? Jiang Tian lowered his head to look at her tearful eyes, smiled slightly, and said sincerely and earnestly. Jiang Tian, who was shot, although his life was not in danger, a deep wound appeared between his eyebrows, and blood flowed down. Looking at Jiang Tian's warm eyes, Zhao Xueqing was stunned. Her vision blurred, and many images flashed through her mind. When she was 5 years old, she went hunting with her father in the mountains. Her father caught a wild duck and showed it to her with a smile. That wild duck dripping with blood scared her to tears. When she was 7 years old, she held a fly swatter. Pa! Under the swatter, the fly turned into juice. When she was 10 years old, she and her classmates went fishing by a pond in the wilderness. Everyone held their catch and took photos in front of the camera. Her youthful figure, bright and pure smiling face, made a victory sign to the camera, but those fish were still struggling bitterly. When she was 14 years old, she was in junior high school. After class, she was knocked to the ground by a few female classmates. She knelt and begged for mercy, while the classmates around her laughed proudly and even took out their cameras to record a video. Killing had always existed, she just didn't realize it. So, you've always had to kill to survive, right? Hearing her confused and weak voice, the images in front of Zhao Xueqing gradually became clear. She saw Jiang Tian smiling gently and looking at her. His pleasant voice came into her ears again. Yes, war and plunder occupy a large part of the history of civilization. Even if you don't have the intention to hurt others, and you are building, the other party will come to your door. Well, that's it. I have to kill them. Zhao Xueqing faintly sighed. She turned her head and looked at these villains with a cold and stern gaze. Ha, you're still talking about the progress of civilization. You're simply courting death. Oh, although this shot didn't kill him, it injured him. He should only have the cultivation of inner force. Yes, if 8 guns were to shoot at the same time, he would definitely be shot into a sieve. Don't kill this woman. She's very tasty. I still want to do a few shots with her. This is the woman of a Wu Dao master from Huaxia. It's enough for me to show off on the dark web for the rest of my life. Master Kong, beautiful lady, why don't you beg for mercy? If you beg for mercy, I can let this beauty go. A few assassins from the Tombstone organization pointed their guns at Jiang Tian and mocked him. Some assassins did it for money, and most of the time, they had no choice but to do so. However, there were also some who were natural killers, bloodthirsty and crazy. The Tombstone assassins in front of them were obviously the second type. Killing people could give them an indescribable sense of satisfaction, a sense of superiority that dictated the life and death of others. Especially when the target was shrouded in fear, put down their dignity, and knelt down to beg for mercy with tears and snot flowing, it could make them reach the pinnacle of pleasure. You deserve to die. Zhao Xueqing's eyes suddenly turned cold. They actually turned into a demonic golden color, filled with killing intent. She slowly stood up and spoke word by word. In an instant, the aura of the immortal body of the immortal phoenix rose steadily, and the aura of the immortal phoenix spread out in all directions. Crack! With a soft sound, the glass on the table cracked into a series of shocking cracks. What is she trying to do? The Grim Reaper suddenly felt a sharp killing intent. This killing intent was so strong that it made him, who was numb to killing, feel a sense of fear and trepidation. Danger! He subconsciously cried out to warn her, but it was already too late. He was shocked to see, crack! Crack! Amidst the explosion, Zhao Xueqing's beautiful snowy feet stepped on the solid wood floor. Amidst the flying wood shavings, her figure was like a hurricane, and she rushed out with a monstrous aura. Her 4 fingers on her crystal-clear hand were as sharp as a knife, and she stabbed out with an indomitable aura. Pooh! Her jade-like hand easily pierced through the bulletproof vest and stabbed into the chest of a Tombstone assassin. Chi! Streams of blood spurted out like arrows with great force. Cough cough, the Tombstone assassin's face was distorted due to extreme pain. He held on to Zhao Xueqing's arm in pain, coughing weakly, spitting out blood, and bent down deeply. Whoosh! Zhao Xueqing raised her leg and used a sharp knee strike, like a cannonball exploding on the opponent's head. Bang! The man's head exploded like a rotten watermelon, and red and white matter spurted out. The body flew up like a rag doll, flying 7 to 8 meters away, and fell heavily in the courtyard. Qing'er was sprayed with blood, and her white silk pajamas looked like blooming plum blossoms. Bang! She threw the still-beating heart on the ground and raised her jade-like foot. Bang! She stepped on it, and it was crushed. She stood proudly in the pool of blood, and her cold gaze swept across the horrified crowd that subconsciously retreated. Her voice was cold and stern, like the whisper of a devil from hell. I said, "You are not allowed to hurt my husband." Everyone was shocked. Is she also a martial artist? Strange, the intelligence didn't say so. Everyone looked at Zhao Xueqing, who was covered in blood, in disbelief. Their faces were as pale as paper, and cold sweat instantly soaked their clothes. Kill her. An assassin looked at Zhao Xueqing with fear in his eyes and pulled the trigger all the way. Bullets poured down on Qing'er like rain. Go to hell. Zhao Xueqing shouted and didn't dodge at all. Her body swayed, and she appeared in front of the gunman. She raised her soft white hand and opened her slender fingers. The friction with the air created a sonic boom, and she slammed it down on the assassin's head. Bang! The assassin's head shattered without any suspense. Brain matter and broken bones flew everywhere, and the remaining half of the head sunk into the neck cavity. She is not afraid of bullets, and she is also a transcendent master. Damn the intelligence officer, why didn't he figure it out? The Grim Reaper was horrified and exasperated. He complained to the heavens, to the earth, and to the air, and even wanted to go berserk. Chapter 281. They knew that Jiang Tian was a tough nut to crack. A transcendent master was no joke. They had been lurking around the mansion for half a month, hoping to kidnap Zhao Xueqing and use her to threaten Jiang Tian. However, when one of the tombstones saw Jiang Tian vomiting blood, they changed their plan. They decided to kill Jiang Tian while he was down. And during the half a month of observation, they didn't find any signs of cultivation from Zhao Xueqing at all. She was completely a weak woman without the strength to truss up a chicken. They had never thought that Zhao Xueqing would be so powerful that she was on par with Jiang Tian. They couldn't even handle one transcendent master, let alone two. This mission was too much of a scam. While he was still hesitating to give up on the mission, one of the tombstones had already turned tail and fled. Don't let the tiger go back to the mountain. Jiang Tian sipped his tea and enjoyed his wife's killing spree. Well, she is growing fast. In fact, even without Jiang Tian's reminder, Zhao Xueqing had already reached out her right hand toward the fleeing tombstone. A surging suction force suddenly formed. Whoosh! The assassin had already reached the door of the living room, but he suddenly lost control of his body and was lifted into the air. Let go of me! He screamed and waved his arms and legs, but Zhao Xueqing had already grabbed him by the back of his neck. Crack! Qing'er twisted her hand, and the tombstone's neck was broken. His head was tilted to one side, and he died. Before the others could react, Zhao Xueqing's hands danced in the air, and the finger qi missed its target. Boom! 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 Several powerful finger qi blasted out like heavy cannons. The rest of the tombstones were also sent flying and fell to the ground, motionless. Their deaths were extremely gruesome. Some of them had their heads smashed and died without an intact body. Some of them had their chests caved in and blood mixed with broken organs. Some of them had broken bones and tendons, and some were smashed into a pile of meat paste. In an instant, the situation took a turn for the worse. In less than a minute, only the leader of Tombstone, Grim Reaper, and the Blood Totem, Anthony, were left standing in the field. Their faces were full of shock, and their minds were in a mess. Hee, two transcendent state cultivators. Your flesh and blood are already very nourishing. Become my blood slaves. Suddenly, Anthony's face turned from shock to joy. He grinned, clasped his hands in front of his chest, and silently recited a few incantations. Two fangs suddenly appeared at the corner of his mouth. Rip! The clothes on his back were torn apart, and two pitch-black bat-like wings extended from his back. Die! He opened his bloody mouth and flapped his wings. With a whoosh, he flew toward Zhao Xueqing. The curved bone spurs at the edge of the wings flickered with a cold light. They were incomparably sharp and could even tear through steel. Phoenix feathers fill the sky. Zhao Xueqing shouted. The immortal body of the stainless phoenix immortal body's aura rose steadily. Two phoenix wings suddenly condensed and swept out. Boom! With a bang, the two giant wings clashed together, stirring up a torrent of air waves. Suddenly, Anthony's wings, which could even break metal and stone, cracked like a rag and blood gushed out. So powerful! Anthony's heart skipped a beat. He used a secret technique, and a ball of blood suddenly burst out from his chest. The dense snow instantly enveloped him, and in the next moment, he suddenly disappeared and reappeared in the courtyard. Then, he flapped his wings and soared into the sky like a big bird, flying into the distance. You're still able to use the blood evasion technique even after suffering such serious injuries. You're not simple. Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. You want to run? Do you think you can? Zhao Xueqing snorted as her eyes glittered. Eyes of the fire phoenix. A flame that was dozens of meters long shot out from his eyes. What is this? Anthony felt a scorching heat coming from his back. When he turned around to look, he was absolutely horrified. He used a few escape and life-saving secret arts, but none of them worked. The red flame immediately engulfed him. Anthony let out a shrill scream and fell from the sky onto the grass. He struggled in the shrill scream. First, it was his hair, then his clothes, then his nails, skin, flesh, bones, and organs. From the inside out, he was burned inch by inch. In the end, he was completely reduced to ashes. In the end, when Anthony's body was completely burned, the flames still didn't stop. A faint red shadow was struggling inside, as if it wanted to break free from the body. However, Zhao Xueqing spat out another flame and the red shadow was also destroyed. This is the blood soul. The god of death trembled in fear. He was dumbfounded. Fear gripped his body and mind. It could be said that Zhao Xueqing's flame was too powerful. Not only did it burn the body of the blood clan member that was impervious to fire and water, but it also destroyed the blood soul. This was the legendary destruction of body and soul. When Anthony's soul disappeared, Zhao Xueqing slowly turned around and asked coldly, "What are you doing? You are the god of death, right? Tell me, who is the mastermind behind the murder of my husband? Goddess, please forgive me. This is the hidden flower that was posted on the dark web. I don't know who is behind this." Under extreme fear, the god of death couldn't control himself anymore. His knees gave way and he knelt on the ground. As the leader of the assassin organization, Tombstone, which was ranked 7th in the world, he was powerful and proud. He had once been surrounded by the FBI in the United States and was able to escape unscathed. He had killed at least 80 tycoons and politicians. His hands were stained with blood, and he regarded human life as nothing. The word fear didn't exist in his dictionary. However, at this moment, he was really afraid. He was not afraid of death, but he was afraid of being burned to ashes. You don't know? Then go to hell. Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes turned cold. Her finger hit the air, and the god of death's head exploded. He fell to the ground and died. The large lawn had almost turned into a slaughterhouse. The ground was full of flesh and blood, and the ground was full of corpses. The dark red snow water poured into the yellow grass. In the early winter night, it was particularly glaring. At this moment, the blood-red murderous aura in Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes slowly receded. She looked around in confusion, and her hands couldn't help but tremble. She lowered her head and looked at the bloodstains on her hands. She said in a trembling voice, "I killed someone. Do you regret it?" Jiang Tian walked over and supported her swaying body. A trace of gloominess flashed in his eyes. He sighed and said, "Actually, I regret it a little. Maybe I shouldn't have brought you down this path. No, I don't regret it." Zhao Xueqing took 2 deep breaths and calmed down. She shook her head and said firmly, "Even if time goes back, I will still kill them." "Well, actually, the first time I killed someone, I vomited for 3 days and 3 nights. Jiang Tian's eyes lit up. He smiled gently and said, "Don't think too much about it. Now, you just need to remember why you swung your sword and be firm in your belief. As long as your belief is firm and correct, you will have no regrets. Don't give yourself pressure." The next day, Jiang Tian washed up and went to the living room. He found that Zhao Xueqing had calmed down and made a table full of breakfast. "Jiang Tian, we have to go back to Jinling, right?" Zhao Xueqing asked worriedly. "Well, actually, Shen Mange and the others should be there soon. But to be safe, we still have to go back." Jiang Tian's eyes flashed coldly. He said, "The behind-the-scenes financier of the dark web has already found out about my identity. Those powerhouses who covet the bounty may attack the Jiang family to threaten me." Last night, he scanned the entire Lin Zhou with his divine sense. There were no more powerhouses. He was afraid that more powerhouses would appear in Jinling. "Well, then let's go." Qing'er nodded. The two of them immediately packed their luggage and drove the Rolls-Royce Phantom to Jinling with the little monkey Qi Tian. In the car, Jiang Tian was depressed. He didn't dare to take a plane. Because if his enemies attacked the plane, Jiang Tian's weak body would definitely die if he fell from a height of 1,000 meters. The weakness of my physical body is ultimately my greatest shackle at the moment. Qing'er was worried about Jiang Tian's body and insisted on driving. Jiang Tian sat in the front passenger seat and looked at the passing scenery outside the window. He frowned and said gloomily. Even if he refined a flying sword, he couldn't fly at the speed of sound. Otherwise, his body wouldn't be able to withstand it. However, he still planned to refine the Celestial Court sword into his own flying sword as soon as possible. Even if it couldn't break the sound barrier, it was comparable to a plane. At least it was better than driving. It was still very convenient. The car drove very fast. In the afternoon, they arrived at the border of Su province and stopped at a gas station to refuel. Mr. Jiang, nice to meet you. Suddenly, a Maserati supercar stopped beside Jiang Tian. The door opened, and a pair of snow-white slender legs stepped on the ground. An extremely sexy foreign woman with blonde hair and blue eyes got out of the car and slowly walked towards Jiang Tian. She was tall and slender, with a height of 1.7 meters. Coupled with her high heels, she was 1.8 meters tall, like a supermodel. It was already early winter and the weather was slightly cold. However, she was wearing a backless evening gown. The slit was very high, revealing a section of her slender, snow-white legs. She was extremely attractive and immediately attracted the attention of many men at the gas station. Then, 2 Mercedes-Benz off-road vehicles stopped and 5 men got out. They were dressed differently, with different ages and skin colors. They were Asian, African, and Caucasian. They came from different countries, races, and regions. However, all of them were emitting a murderous aura. Coming to kill me in broad daylight in a public place, you guys are really bold. Jiang Tian said with a smile. This woman had an evil aura. She was obviously an arcanist. As for the people behind him, they were all different kinds of cultivators, but all of them had strong qi and blood. Their strength was at least equivalent to the Huaxia martial arts inner force cultivators. They were much stronger than the Tombstone members from before. I can't help it. The temptation of a reward of 500 million is really hard to resist. The demonic woman licked her lips with her scarlet tongue. A strong murderous aura flashed in her blue eyes. She wanted to approach Jiang Tian. At this moment, a police car came roaring. A female police officer jumped out of the car. This female police officer was tall and sexy. Her breasts were so high that they almost burst out of her clothes. Her waist was slender, her thighs were round, her butt was round, and her calves were slender. She was wearing a pair of leather flats and looked valiant. Chapter 282. Fuck, so sexy. It's simply the seduction of a uniform. It could be said that as soon as she appeared, the breathing of many men on the scene became hurried. Their eyes were simply not enough. Their gazes became like male dogs in heat, staring at every inch of the female police officer. They felt that no matter how much they looked, they could not get enough of her. If gazes could take off clothes, her uniform would have already been taken off 10,000 times. The female police officer was already accustomed to these scorching gazes. She disdained to even look at them. She even saw similar gazes in the eyes of some women. The female police officer directly pulled out her gun and pointed at the bewitching woman's group. She coldly said, "Everyone, put your hands on your head and squat down. Otherwise, we will open fire." She pulled out her gun. The surrounding people immediately retreated. Their faces turned pale with fright. This foreign beauty was actually a criminal. Jiang Tian turned around and glanced at her. His eyes were incomparably indifferent. He indifferently said, "Female police officer, take your people and leave. They are very dangerous." Jiang Tian. The female police officer looked at Jiang Tian in astonishment. Then, she disdainfully smiled and said, "I have already set my eyes on you. You better be careful. Set your eyes on me." Jiang Tian looked at her with a smile that was not a smile. "Yes. I am from the Provincial Criminal Police Force. The female police officer coldly smiled and stared at Jiang Tian. Her face was filled with ill intent as she said, I know that Su Ruocheng and Bai Choufei are your subordinates. Moreover, the Nye family's tragedy is probably related to you. Jiang Tian was slightly stunned. He couldn't help but bitterly smile. Him crushing the Nye family was greatly supported by Secretary Yu. There was even the Chao family's secret influence. However, the problem was that this operation was too high-end. Some of the police officers below him who didn't know the truth and had a strong sense of justice would probably treat him as an extremely vicious person. The female police officer no longer paid attention to Jiang Tian. She pointed her gun at the bewitching woman and coldly said, however, Jiang Tian, I don't have time to care about you right now. Move aside. Okay. Jiang Tian cooperatively pulled Xiao Shuecheng out of the circle. Squat down. Otherwise, we will open fire. Unrelated people, disperse. They're bandits. Soon after, 2 more police cars arrived. Several police officers jumped out of the cars and surrounded the crowd with pistols in their hands. They shouted and threatened, and some people dispersed the crowd around them. Hee, open fire, there's gasoline everywhere. The bewitching woman smiled lazily. She didn't care about the police at all. She pulled out the gun, opened it, and threw it on the ground. Instantly, gasoline gushed out like spring water, and the air was filled with the choking smell of gasoline. Put away your spear and capture him. The policewoman shouted and put the pistol on her waist. Then, she pounced on the bewitching woman. The 2 of them immediately started fighting. The rest of the police officers also began to fight with the killers. His skills are too weak. In the distance, Jiang Tian frowned as he looked at the people fighting and shook his head with a bitter smile. The policewoman's skills were swift and fierce. Her moves were bold and clean. She had the style of the army's capture fist, and even integrated many of Hua Xia's martial arts techniques. She was not inferior to the top special forces. However, the bewitching woman was a top ace killer and an arcanist. After a few moves, the policewoman was at a disadvantage. Bang! The bewitching woman punched the policewoman in the chest, and the latter fell out like a kite with a broken string. Hua Xia's policewoman, you're just so. The bewitching woman smiled disdainfully. She opened the trunk of her supercar and pulled out a heavy machine gun. The killers attacked a few times and forced the police officers to retreat. Then, they decisively ended the fight and retreated, jumping out of the circle. Go to hell. The bewitching woman fired at the gasoline tank. With a boom, the gasoline tank exploded. Flames soared into the sky, and a huge mushroom cloud rose. Billowing heat waves spread in all directions. Ah! Ah! Amid the heart-wrenching screams, the police officers were instantly caught in the sea of fire and were pushed out by the heat waves. Wrapped in the soaring flames, they struggled and fell to the ground, rolling on the ground. Then, the bewitching woman and the killers pulled the trigger all the way to the end, killing the few half-dead policemen. The policewoman was lying on the ground. She raised her head with difficulty. When she saw this scene, her heart sank. It's over. She did not expect the other party to be armed with heavy weapons and be so ruthless. 5 of her comrades were killed in an instant. She pulled out her pistol and fired at the bewitching woman. Tisk, tsk. Cute little girl, do you have martial arts cultivation? You didn't get killed by me. However, the bewitching woman smiled. Her body swayed, and she dodged the bullets. She waved her hand. Chi! With a sound, an aura was slashed at the policewoman. Seeing the cold light flashing in front of her, the policewoman rolled lazily to avoid it. With a loud bang, a large hole was cut in the cement floor where he was just now. The policewoman was so shocked that she was covered in cold sweat. She was dumbfounded. She saw that the pistol in her hand was cut in half by the other party. Only the bare handle was left. Seeing the shooting and the big explosion, everyone in the parking lot was scared silly. They no longer cared about refueling and resting. Some of them drove away in panic, and some fled to the fields behind the gas station. Well, Mr. Jiang, you can die now. It's your honor to die in the hands of our butterfly skeleton. The bewitching woman sneered. The machine gun in her hand was pointed at Jiang Tian. Suddenly, the other 4 or 5 guns were pointed at Jiang Tian. Butterfly skeleton. What's the background? Zhao Xueqing held Jiang Tian's hand and asked curiously. Butterfly Skeleton is the 3rd assassin organization in the world. They are stronger than Tombstone. Their main market is Huaxia. They have committed dozens of murder cases, and there are more that the police have not found and filed. Their methods are cruel. Once they commit a crime, they will destroy the target's family. The members are all wanted by Interpol, but so far, we haven't caught any members of the Butterfly Skeleton. The woman leading them is their trump card, Rattlesnake. The policewoman gasped for breath. Her voice was trembling, and it was obvious that she was afraid. But she still pulled out a bulletproof shield from the police car and stood side by side with Jiang Tian. She handed one of the shields to Jiang Tian and his wife and said in a deep voice, "How did you provoke them?" At this time, she realized that the target of the rattlesnake she had been chasing all the way was actually Jiang Tian. At the same time, she also secretly scolded Jiang Tian and his wife for being retarded. "Why didn't you run away when I was fighting just now? Now, I can't escape unscathed. I'm like a fish on a chopping board. Maybe I'll die. Hee hee, little girl, you know quite a lot. I'll eat you alive later." The rattlesnake stuck out its scarlet, forked tongue and licked its blood-dripping lips with a rustling sound. The policewoman suddenly felt as if she was being stared at by a venomous snake. She felt cold all over. "Oh, I've never heard of it." Jiang Tian chuckled, but he raised his hand and pushed the shield away. "You don't want the shield?" The policewoman widened her eyes and said anxiously, "Do you want to be shot by them? Take the shield and go." "Hubby, I'll practice again." Under the horrified gaze of the female police officer, Zhao Xueqing smiled faintly and walked toward the killers with her head held high. "Come back quickly." The policewoman was so anxious that she almost fainted. Such a delicate little girl, going up barehanded, did she want to die? "Oh, little girl, you want to die too? Well, you can go on the road together. I'll let you have a companion on the road to hell." Rattlesnake smiled slightly. Bang, bang, bang. The gunman pulled the trigger all the way and shot brazenly. Phoenix dances in the 9 heavens. Zhao Xueqing suddenly swayed and used her movement technique. She soared into the air like a phoenix and dodged the bullets. "Naughty. You can clearly resist with your body." Jiang Tian smiled leisurely and looked at his beloved wife's nimble and domineering figure with admiration and adoration. When Zhao Xueqing landed, she had already rushed into the encirclement and directly struck out with her palm. Pa! With a bang, the head of one of the killers exploded. Qing'er has learned to be smart. Jiang Tian clapped his hands in gratification. When she fought, she would naturally emit a protective aura. Not only could it defend her, the blood and dirt that splattered everywhere would not dirty her. Chi! A sharp golden light swept in all directions. The remaining 4 gunmen spurted blood and fell to the ground as headless corpses. "You're a martial arts expert." Rattlesnake looked at Zhao Xueqing in disbelief. Her face was full of fear and she subconsciously took a step back. "Ha, haven't you heard of Kang Teichu's name?" Jiang Tian smiled faintly. "I, Kang Teichu, could even kill Lin Zhenyu with a raise of my hand. It's not surprising that my lover has some cultivation." "What? You're Kang Teichu?" Rattlesnake was horrified. Her beautiful face suddenly turned pale. At the same time, she was filled with hatred and complained incessantly. The person behind the hidden flower bounty was simply too despicable. Jiang Tian was Kang Tae-chu, and yet he did not give out such important information. It turned out that although the Big Circle had already investigated Jiang Tian's identity, the information given on the hidden flower bounty on the dark net only provided information related to Jiang Tian. It did not provide information related to his martial arts achievements or related information. This was easy to understand. Kang Tae-chu was simply too powerful. Once the news spread, who would accept the hidden flower bounty? The Tombstone organization was not as strong as the butterfly skeleton, so they were even more careful. They spent a few months investigating the news that Jiang Tian was Kang Tae-chu. Rattlesnake and the others were too careless. They completely treated it as a normal mission and did not conduct a detailed investigation. Now, it was a mistake. If she had known that the target was Kang Tae-chu, Rattlesnake swore that she would never have accepted this mission. Even if she had accepted the mission, she would have used a more convenient long-distance sniping method to escape. She would not have delivered her head face to face like this. Whoosh! In a moment of desperation, Rattlesnake suddenly stretched out her right hand and grabbed a small car. With a shake of her right arm, the car that weighed more than 1,000 kilograms was easily thrown out by her. With a whistling sound, it smashed towards Xiao Xueqing. Chi! Qing'er raised her eyebrows and a finger light hit the air. Kaboom! With a sound, the small car suddenly shattered. Parts, tires, sheet metal, and iron shards scattered like rain. This evil woman is so strong. Rattlesnake's body curved strangely like a snake. Suddenly, she shot out like a spring and actually jumped more than 10 meters away. Then, as she ran for her life, she continuously threw a few cars towards Xiao Xueqing. Chapter 283. You want to escape? Xiao Xueqing used the Phoenix Dance's ninth heaven, and her body was as ethereal as an immortal. She dodged left and right, appearing and disappearing from time to time. She easily dodged many cars that were falling down, and those that were too lazy to dodge directly hit the air and shattered. This scene shocked everyone. One after another, cars rose into the air weightlessly, and then crashed down like thunderbolts, or directly shattered in the air, like fireworks, or like a fairy scattering flowers. Holy shit, this is too shocking. The cars are flying. Superman? Spider-Man? Wonder Woman? Everyone in the distance was dumbfounded, and one by one, they took out their mobile phones to record this shocking scene. At this time, Rattlesnake had already run to the bottom of the slope of the highway, and it looked like she was going to rob a passing car and escape. Her movement technique was fast enough, and when she threw the car, she ran like lightning, but she was still one step too late. Qing'er was already standing on the side of the highway, looking down at her condescendingly. You can't escape. Let me go. Rattlesnake's face was full of fear, and she pleaded, I promise, I will never step into Huaxia again, and I will never accept any mission related to Mr. Jiang. No, anyone who wants to hurt my husband must die. Qing'er's pretty face was covered with a layer of frost, and murderous intent appeared. You forced me to do this. Rattlesnake's expression changed continuously, and her teeth chattered. Suddenly, she shouted, Viper Breath Technique. She formed a strange seal with her hands, and her red lips moved rapidly as she chanted an ancient spell that was hard to understand. This ancient spell sometimes sounded like the whisper of a devil, sometimes like the rustling of a rattlesnake's tail, and sometimes like the hissing of a python, and it had a magical power that could captivate people's souls. Her eyes instantly turned into a demonic golden color, and her black pupils suddenly contracted, cold and sharp like the tip of a needle. Golden scales quickly appeared on her originally white and tender skin, and as they rolled and swayed, they shone with a strange light, making her look like she was wearing an exquisite golden armor. At the same time, a huge shadow of a golden rattlesnake appeared behind her. Then, it suddenly shrank back into her body. Her body twisted in pain. Black gas spurted out from her chest and condensed. It faintly transformed into a snake head the size of a millstone. It opened its bloody mouth and revealed its ferocious fangs. Then, it rushed toward Qing'er violently. The snake head was extremely heavy, and it was extremely ferocious, as if it could tear a tiger apart and bite a steel pillar. This should be the viper body tempering technique that my husband mentioned. It's quite magical. Excitement flashed into come to Zhao Xueqing's eyes, she seemed to understand. Some ancient shaman sects had cultivators associated with venomous snakes. They used snake venom to temper their bodies and practiced the venomous snake body technique to form their offensive power. However, the rattlesnake's secret technique seemed to be incomplete, and it was far from the body tempering technique that her husband had mentioned. Its body could not completely turn into a poisonous snake, and it could only use poisonous gas to hurt people. It was Zhao Xueqing's first time entering the world of cultivation. She was very curious about all kinds of strange cultivation methods. Whenever she saw one, she would carefully observe and figure it out. However, this did not mean that she would let down her guard against this rattlesnake and show it mercy. After understanding this, she immediately activated her cultivation method, and the immortal body of the stainless phoenix suddenly soared, as if it was soaring into the sky. Go to hell. Then, with a light shout like a phoenix's cry, she raised her hand, and a divine phoenix chi weapon slashed out. Chi. This chi weapon was 7 to 8 meters long, and a translucent golden light swept out like mercury, easily cutting the snake head in half. The rattlesnake hiding behind did not have time to react, and it was cut in half at the waist. Her eyes were still wide open with shock and fear, as if she could not believe that she had died just like that. The Queen of Assassins, the ace killer of the Butterfly Tombstone organization, Rattlesnake, was easily killed by Qing'er. Husband, I won. Qing'er withdrew the monstrous aura of the immortal body of the stainless phoenix into her body, smiled sweetly, and skipped toward Jiang Tian. Kang Teichu, what is that? When Qing'er went to chase after the rattlesnake and the others, the female police officer looked at Jiang Tian and frowned. You really don't know how to talk. Jiang Tian could not be bothered with her. He rolled his eyes at her and said disdainfully, anyway, don't try to catch me. My level is not something you can imagine, fuck. The female police officer Lin Menghan was going crazy, and she wanted to cry but had no tears. She was not even 30 years old, but she was already the captain of the criminal investigation team of the Su Province Police Department. She was a dignified cadre, beautiful, skilled, and had a rare heroic aura of an ordinary girl. She had a different kind of charm. In Jinling and even in the Su province, who knew how many young talents were infatuated with her, desperately trying to please and pursue her. But in front of Jiang Tian, why was she like an ant? But when she saw Zhao Xueqing's magical ability, Lin Menghan was completely stunned. Lin Menghan was in a daze. What she saw today was the most unbelievable thing in her life. She dodged bullets with her body, condensed chi into a weapon, and killed people like cutting vegetables. When a car came, she raised her finger and sent it flying. How is she so strong? Is she a martial artist? No, she should be a legendary martial artist. Lin Menghan muttered to herself in a daze. She had always been proud and conceited, but after seeing Qing'er's monstrous strength, her outlook on life collapsed. Her confidence was shattered and fell to the ground, unable to be picked up. Hubby, how was my fight? Zhao Xueqing ran over and hugged Jiang Tian's arm, like a primary school student who had scored 100 marks and was asking for a reward from her teacher. Not bad. You fought very well. Jiang Tian smiled and said, it's just that sometimes you talk too much. Remember, don't talk too much, just fight directly. Bad people die because of talking too much, good people will also miss opportunities because of this. Lin Menghan was originally very respectful towards Zhao Xueqing, but looking at the dead comrades on the ground, she could not help but feel a surge of anger. She waved her hands and shouted, Miss Zhao, if you have such strength, why didn't you do it earlier? Otherwise, our comrades would not have died. At that time, Zhao Xueqing was slightly stunned and was speechless. She was actually frightened by the other party, and her delicate body trembled slightly. Her eyes turned red and she almost cried. At that time, she only cared about protecting Jiang Tian, and did not expect that the group of policemen would be so useless. They were easily killed by the assassins. "Bitch, how dare you talk to my wife like that, do you want to die?" Jiang Tian was instantly displeased and frowned, and said coldly. You dare to call me a bitch, you dare to threaten me." Lin Menghan had always been proud, and upon hearing this, her full chest heaved up and down violently, and her teeth chattered. "Who do you think you are, a moron, worthy of being threatened by me?" Jiang Tian laughed and said, "What does the life and death of your comrades have to do with us? Didn't you want to catch us? Do you think you have the ability to catch us? What a joke. Get lost." He shouted in a low voice, and a huge force pushed out, causing Lin Menghan to stagger back a few steps. He pulled Zhao Xueqing into the Rolls-Royce Phantom and left. Lin Menghan was left standing there with her mouth agape. She was still fuming with anger. 11 p.m., downtown Jinling. The red light at the intersection lit up, and a low-key Audi A8 braked. It was a luxury car worth more than $2 million, and its 3-meter-long wheelbase made the A8 almost 40 centimeters longer than the various economy cars around it. This length was enough to make car enthusiasts drool with envy. Fortunately, the A8 was a middle-of-the-road business model, and its appearance was not too eye-catching. This was the reason why Zhang Wanqing did not take the Rolls-Royce Phantom, and only took this Audi to work. Even so, many passers-by's eyes were still fixed on the Audi A8, and their attention was attracted. "Miss Shen, thank you for your hard work," Zhang Wanqing said with a smile. She knew Shen Meng's identity, a descendant of the Shen family in Beijing, and a top student in Shenong School. However, she followed her son's wishes to be her driver and bodyguard. This made the kind-hearted Zhang Wanqing feel a little embarrassed. "President Zhang, you are too polite." The moment the green light lit up, Shen Meng turned her head and smiled sweetly. The rear window of the A8 exploded automatically. Suddenly, the glass shards scattered all over the ground. The sudden strange scene shocked many passers-by. Without a layer of film on the window, half of Zhang Wanqing's body was almost completely exposed to the passers-by. Similarly, it fell into the eyes of those who were interested. About 200 meters away from the gap between two tall buildings, on the roof of a 6-story building, a cold-looking man who had been lurking for a long time shook his shoulder-length hair. He was expressionless as he calmly pushed the second bullet into the barrel of his gun. His movements were slow and unhurried, neither hot nor cold, but it revealed a chilling murderous intent. The slender and extremely metallic body of the gun reflected the exquisiteness of European military technology. This Swiss SSG 3000 sniper rifle, known as the world's most accurate single-shot sniper rifle, was more like a work of art worth collecting than the domestic 88. But it was by no means a decorative vase. In the eyes of an excellent sniper, it was a real killing weapon. The cold-looking man aimed again and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Shooting the target was his job. He was calm as if there was no pressure or uneasiness. Puff! The silencer made the gunshot sound extremely low, blending into the hustle and bustle of the city, almost inaudible. In an area where guns were strictly controlled, it was shocking that someone used such a gun to shoot a target 300 meters away. Because of this, the Audi A8's window exploded. People's eyes were confused, but there was one person who realized the danger. It was Shen Meng, who was in the driver's seat and was responsible for protecting her. At the moment when the window exploded for the first time, Shen Meng shouted, "President Zhang, get down." At the same time, she pressed the electronic handbrake and stepped on the accelerator, ignoring the long line of cars waiting for the red light in front of her. The car crazily rushed forward, colliding with the Volkswagen Passat in front, causing more than a dozen cars to collide on the left turn. The banging sound of the collision was incessant. Then Shen Meng wildly turned the steering wheel to the right. The car hit several cars and forcibly squeezed into the underground parking lot of a chain supermarket. However, no matter how fast Shen Meng's reaction was, it was not faster than a bullet. There was still a painful groan from the back seat of the A8. Most of the 6-story building was blocked by 2 tall buildings by the roadside. On the roof of the 6-story building, the cold-looking man, Wan Kun, curled his lips and scolded with a smile, "Fuck." Chapter 284. Night fell, and it was 12 a.m. On the highway, Jiang Tian and his wife were less than 30 kilometers away from Jinling City. Jiang Tian's phone suddenly rang. It was Shen Meng calling. Jiang Tian's heart skipped a beat and he quickly answered the call. "Master, bad news. Someone is sniping Ms. Zhang Wanqing from afar," Shen Meng said in a panic. "What?" Jiang Tian's heart sank. He asked, "How's my mother?" "She's fine. President Zhang has been wearing your jade amulet." "She's only slightly injured," Shen Meng reported. "What about the others?" Jiang Tian asked in a deep voice. "Jiang Lin was in a car accident last night. She was only slightly injured because of the jade amulet. Li Jinwei and Qiu Gong are currently on their way to the Medicine King Group to protect their executives." Shen Meng hurriedly said, "Ghost Kick and I will stay in your villa to protect Old Master Zhang and the core members of the Jiang family. There are no casualties at the moment, but there was a man-made explosion at the Medicine King Group's production base in Qixie County. More than 20 employees were killed. That's the current situation." "Okay, I got it. Hang in there. I'll be there soon." Jiang Tian hung up the phone. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He said in a deep voice, $500 million. International assassins? How dare you attack the Jiang family? I'll make you pay in blood." "Did they do something to Mom?" Qing'er asked worriedly. "Yes, she's fine. Hurry up. We have to get to Jinling as soon as possible," Jiang Tian said with a frown. "Okay." Zhao Xueqing's face turned cold. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. She was ready to unleash her Phoenix Girl aura. The Rolls-Royce Phantom suddenly accelerated. It left a dazzling silver light on the highway and sped toward Jinling like an arrow. Late at night, the living room of the Jiang family's villa was brightly lit. The whole family was gathered in the living room, but no one was sleepy. Anxiety, fear, and uneasiness were tormenting everyone's nerves. Other than Old Master Jiang, Jiang Zhixing, and his wife, who remained calm, many members of the Jiang family were a little uneasy. Yu Chang, Tai Ming Huang, Bai Choufei, Tang Xiaozi, and the others all brought their elite forces here, guarding this place tightly. There were police officers and club members. "Sai, why hasn't Jiang Tian come back yet? Where did he go at such a critical moment?" Jiang Chao was anxious and scared. He felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles as he moved his butt uneasily. In fact, Zhang Wanqing wasn't the only one who was shot. His uncle's family and second uncle's family were all affected to varying degrees. Jiang Chao was also kidnapped. Fortunately, Jiang Tian had set up a trap in advance, so there were no casualties. Many of the assassins did not succeed. At this critical juncture, Jiang Tian had become the backbone and support of the Jiang family. Without him, everyone would be worried. "Did you get a needle in your butt?" "Jiang Tian isn't here, but aren't all your friends here?" Jiang Chang'an frowned and scolded. "Auntie Zhang, don't worry. You are a female entrepreneur under the protection of Jinling City. The Jinling City Bureau will definitely catch those criminals." Yu Chang smiled and comforted Zhang Wanqing. "Also, the Bureau has arranged a large number of elite police officers in the Medicine King Group and the Jiang family. We will definitely get through this safely." Bang! Suddenly, there was a loud noise. The fire in the yard soared into the sky and the entire mansion shook. Soon after, a series of gunshots were heard. It sounded like an assault rifle, and the rapid screams made one's hair stand on end. 7 or 8 seconds later, it was silent. Grenade. Heavy machine gun. Hey, Captain Lee, what's the situation over there? Yu Chung shouted into the walkie-talkie. However, the only response he got was a terrifying silence. In the courtyard of the mansion, on top of a tall tree, a valiant figure suddenly appeared. This person had shoulder-length hair that was parted to the side. He was wearing a slim leather jacket and a pair of loose yellow trousers. The trousers were stuffed into high-top hiking shoes. His every move was neat and fierce. It was Wan Kun, the killer who had attacked Zhang Wanqing in the downtown area. He blew the smoke from the muzzle of the Browning pistol and glanced at the mansion. His face was slightly dignified. Man-ape, it seems that there are many people guarding this place. Today will be a hard fight. On the ground under his feet, there were piles of corpses, which was a shocking sight. More than half of the more than 20 criminal police officers had been killed, including several elites of the special police who carried heavy weapons. It was not that these anti-terrorism elites trained for the Olympic Games were cowards, but that the intruder was not an ordinary robber or a good-for-nothing. He was a famous elite on the list of killers in the world. The next moment, Wan Kun crossed his feet and landed on the ground. He was more than 2 meters tall, but he did not make any sound. Diagonally opposite him, a special police officer flashed out from behind the bunker and knelt on one knee. As soon as he raised his submachine gun, a man hiding behind the tree raised his pistol and fired decisively. Bang! The 9mm barrable bullet penetrated the head of the special police officer. The huge inertia caused the heavy special police officer to fall backward. Is it useful to have more people? In New York, we can defeat the FBI, and in Huaxia, we can do the same. Next to him, Man-ape poked his head out from behind a huge tree. His hoarse voice was full of confidence. He was tall, 2 meters tall, like a gibbon. He looked ugly and ferocious. Blue veins bulged on his big hands, which contained powerful strength. Yeah, I didn't expect that there would be a guy with such a valuable head in Jinling. $500 million. Wan Kun grinned ferociously and suddenly rushed out, bending over and rushing toward the gate of the mansion. Hundreds of meters behind the mansion, on the roof of a building, the police sniper thought that there was an opportunity. He opened the infrared night vision scope equipped with the sniper rifle, and several light beams instantly appeared in the night sky. The infrared searchlight first shone on the hunting target, and the reflected light formed an image in the scope. The principle of the infrared night vision scope was that it was fine when encountering ordinary hunting targets. But when encountering an expert like Wan Kun, the searchlight of the infrared night vision scope was the biggest and most fatal flaw. The infrared ray emitted by the searchlight was invisible, but the ordinary source of the infrared ray could be seen. When the sniper opened the scope, he exposed himself. The light beam shone into the dark courtyard, and Wan Kun immediately reacted. Wan Kun rolled and hid in a low corner. He held the Browning pistol in one hand to suppress the police in the courtyard, and the other hand held the sniper rifle. He poked out from behind the rockery and took advantage of the moment when the police officer in the courtyard was forced to crouch down. He aimed and pulled the trigger. Bang, 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 3 consecutive shots. The sound of the gunshots was not ear-piercing due to the silencer. The sniper in the dark corner of the opposite building watched as the scope shattered, and the bullet drilled into his head and he died. The other 2 ace snipers who were half-squatting suddenly fell back as if they were hit by a heavy blow. They fell to the ground and breathed their last. Don't care about the police, just rush in. Anyway, Hidden Flower's boss wants us to force the target into international waters. We can just kidnap one of his family members and threaten him. Ape sneered, picked up the mighty heavy machine gun, and madly fired at the villa. Then, 7 or 8 killers stood up from their bunkers and aimed their guns at the police and the villa. Dang! 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 The bulletproof glass windows first cracked, then suddenly shattered. The broken glass scattered all over the ground, and bullets poured in like rain, leaving bullet marks on the walls. The tables and chairs were shattered, and the stuffing in the sofa flew up. The scene was extremely shocking. Jiang Changgang and Jiang Zhixing had only been cultivating for less than a month, so their cultivation was still very low. They couldn't withstand the bullets, so they could only grit their teeth and crawl on the ground in humiliation. Oh my God, this is too crazy. Where's the police? Police. As for Yu Chang and the others, their faces were as pale as paper, and they crawled under the table. Suddenly, Shen Mange's voice came from the walkie-talkie. Yu Chang, let the police retreat into the villa. We'll take care of them. Officers, retreat into the villa first. Master Kong has an expert on his side. Yu Chang had no other choice, so he could only listen to Shen Mange's orders and shout into the walkie-talkie. Many of the police officers were having a hard time fighting. When they heard the order, they all crawled into the villa and hid behind the walls and sofa. Ha, the police are scared. The police immediately retreated into the villa. Ape smiled proudly and was about to rush into the villa. Wait, there are still 2 people. Suddenly, Wan Kun raised his head and looked at the 2 figures on the roof of the villa. He was shocked, and a sharp murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Expert. His pupils contracted, and his face became unprecedentedly serious. Wan Kun used to be the ace soldier of the Special Forces of the People's Army of Yu Country. After he retired, he entered the world of assassins. He once killed a tycoon from Japan with a single shot from hundreds of meters away. He had rich combat experience and was very sensitive to auras. He noticed that the 2 figures exuded a terrifying murderous aura, which was much stronger than those ant-like police officers. Shen Mange's phantom kick is here to protect the Yi family under the order of Master Yi. You all retreat quickly. Anyone who dares to take another step forward will die. Shen Mange and Wan Kun leaped down from the roof of the villa and looked at the crowd coldly. They are martial artists. Some of the assassins were shocked and took a step back subconsciously. Ha, so what? Don't shoot, I want to fight with them. Ape was also a physical awakened arcanist. He rushed toward Shen Mange and roared with a grin. Boom! He threw a punch like a cannonball, but Shen Mange blocked it with her arm. Kill! At the same time, Phantom Kick also untied the bone whip coiled around his waist. With a roar, he pounced and fought with Wan Kun and the other assassins. Bang! Ape's giant fist collided with Shen Mange's slender arm, and Shen Mange was forced to take a step back. His body is so strong. He has the fist strength of a physical physique master. Shen Mange's face was slightly stern. In fact, she was not wrong. Ape was known for his strong body. He used to be a Special Forces soldier in a European country and was injected with a genetic modification liquid as a volunteer in a high-tech experiment. Unexpectedly, the liquid was not mature enough, which caused his temperament to change drastically. He was cruel and killed 3 scientists in the laboratory. But at the same time, Ape's body was indeed awakened. He was extremely strong. When he was surrounded by the FBI, he only needed 1 punch to break a riot shield made of special materials and overturn several explosion-proof armored police cars before escaping unscathed. Yes. Brother Ape's body is very strong. Ape laughed evilly. Hua Xiao's women are so beautiful. Today, I will capture you alive and torture you 100 times. Is that so? I think you ugly monster are a weakling. Shen Mange's face turned cold. She jumped up and threw a punch from top to bottom. Chapter 285. Although Shen Mange was not a cultivator, her cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds under Jiang Tian's guidance. She had already reached the initial transcendent state. When this punch smashed down, it was truly like Mount Tai pressing down, and it crushed down an expanse of space while violent gales whistled, causing sand and rocks in the surroundings to fly into the air. Kaboom! The gorilla man couldn't dodge in time and was sent flying backward. He spat out a mouthful of blood and shook his dizzy head. Hua Xia is a vicious bitch. However, his fighting spirit had only increased. He was known as the Raging Gorilla Man in the assassin world. The more angry he was, the more powerful he became. Go to hell. A strange green light flashed in his eyes. He raised his arms and roared at the sky. In a blink, his body grew to 3 meters tall. He looked like a demon god standing between heaven and earth. His muscles bulged like a dragon, bursting out of his shirt and shoes. His stretchy pants turned into a pair of shorts. Arr! With a loud roar, he rushed towards Shenmenge in large strides. He stomped on the ground, causing the ground to crack and dust to rise into the air. It was as if there was an earthquake. Puff! Shenmenge's face didn't change at all. She pulled out a sword that was engraved with strange talisman inscriptions. This was the flame gold sword that Jiang Tian had obtained from Hong Tianzhao all those years ago. Moreover, it had been refined and modified by Jiang Tian. It could release scorching sword light and sword energy, increasing one's battle prowess tenfold. Shenmenge held the sword upside down and rushed toward the gorilla man. She ran faster and faster. In the end, she leapt up and stabbed out with her sword. It was like an antelope hanging its horn, a wondrous and natural technique. It was also like a white steed flashing through a crack, disappearing in a flash. The surging and sharp sword chi directly pierced through his skin, which was as hard as cowhide. Then, it actually pierced through his chest. The sword pierced through his chest. The ace of the Dark Knight Spectre, ranked 8th on the Asian Assassin Rankings, ranked 23rd on the World Assassin Rankings, Raging Ape, was dead. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, Wan Kun was dumbfounded, his face filled with disbelief. According to the information, Shenmenge was only a martial artist at the level of internal strength, but she was able to release a sword chi that was more than 3 meters long. The dazzling sword chi was incomparably sharp. Her swordsmanship was so brilliant that it was as if she had been immersed in swordsmanship for decades. The ape that couldn't even be killed by bullets was pierced through the chest by her sword. A delicate girl? She was just Jiang Tian's maid, and her name wasn't even on the Grandmaster God list in Huaxia. This was like the biggest joke in the world. In a moment of panic, the ghost kick had already swept out with a white ape bone whip, which coiled around his neck like a poisonous snake. Ha! Wan Kun let out a roar as he tugged at the white ape bone whip with both hands, trying to break free. Ghost kick dashed forward like an arrow and kicked out 3 times in a row. The shadows of the kicks merged together and landed on Wan Kun's chest. Wan Kun's sternum caved in. He flew out with blood spurting out of his mouth and died. The assassins fell to the ground. The remaining 2 saw that the situation was hopeless and immediately chose to escape. Where are you going? The ghost kick became more and more courageous as he fought. With a roar, he swept out his whip toward the 2 men. Clang! Just as the 2 men were scared out of their wits, the crisp sound of metal colliding was suddenly heard. Suddenly, a sexy and beautiful figure appeared in the courtyard like a ghost. Her fingers seemed to be shining with a strange luster as she easily caught the white ape bone whip. Mediterranean golden scorpion. We're saved. The Jiang family is doomed this time. Fanatical worship appeared on the faces of the assassins. Their eyes were burning as if they had seen a god. The Mediterranean golden scorpion, one of the 7 giants of the Great Circle, was much stronger than them. Her arrival instantly boosted the confidence of the assassins. Ha! Martial artists from Huaxia. How interesting, but in my eyes, you're just trash. The golden scorpion smiled seductively. However, a cold light suddenly flashed in her blue eyes. She clenched her right hand and snapped the whip in half. She broke the white ape bone whip. The ghost kick was shocked. He could feel the powerful energy coming from the golden scorpion. The bone whip had been refined by Master Kong. If she could break it, She must be very powerful. She is the Mediterranean golden scorpion. Shen Mange was also taken aback. The Mediterranean golden scorpion, like Lin Zhenyu, was one of the giants of the Great Circle. She was a metal element supernatural power user and was as powerful as a transcendent grandmaster. However, the Ghost Kick and Shen Mange were only mildly surprised. In the next moment, their fighting spirit soared. The Ghost Kick's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He straightened his back and shouted with a powerful voice. I am the Ghost Kick, Mr. Jiang's servant. I am here to protect the Jiang family. I will kill anyone who dares to step into the Jiang family's home. Shen Mange, Mr. Jiang's zither servant. I am here to protect the Jiang family. I will kill anyone who dares to step into the Jiang family's home. Shen Mange also stepped forward and scolded in a deep voice. Hee, interesting. The golden scorpion walked gracefully in her high heels. The hem of her dress opened, revealing her fair thighs. She looked like a socialite attending a fancy ball. Her every movement was full of seductive charm. Her red lips parted slightly, and her voice was full of magnetism and charm. Mr. Jiang is really a wonderful person. He slaughtered his way through Huaxia in a bloody and brutal manner, and yet so many people are willing to risk their lives for him. Humph. We are indebted to Master Kong. We will protect the Jiang family until the last drop of our blood. The Ghost Kick's eyes flashed with determination. Whoosh. He charged toward the golden scorpion and kicked her 3 times in the face. Shen Mange also stepped forward with her sword. A sharp blade aura shot out and went straight for the golden scorpion's lower body. Very well. If you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. The golden scorpion smiled proudly. She did not dodge at all and slashed with her right hand. Chi! Her finger immediately turned into a thin and sharp blade that was as thin as a cicada's wing and slashed at the Ghost Kick's leg. Chi! The wind on the Ghost Kick's leg was immediately cut open. Blood bloomed in the air as the blade cut deep into the bone. The golden scorpion strode forward. Her fists shone with a strange metallic luster and hit the Ghost Kick's chest with a bang. The Ghost Kick screamed and spat out blood. She twisted her waist in the air and did a somersault before landing on the ground. Clang, clang, clang. She was so fast. Shen Mange's blade aura had just cut her legs. Clang! Clang! There was a deafening sound. The blade aura passed by and her legs shone with a metallic luster. Sparks flew and the sound was sonorous, but it did not leave any scars on her legs. Hiss! So powerful. She seems to be much stronger than the raging ape. The Ghost Kick and Shen Mange gasped. This woman's body was so strong. It was probably harder than a steel plate. You have a good eye. I don't mind helping you explain. The golden scorpion strolled leisurely with a lazy expression. She completely treated the Jiang family's villa as her own garden. Her grainy, hoarse voice rang out. Her tone was full of ridicule and unscrupulousness. Paranormals are also graded from weak to strong. D is an ordinary person with a strong body, such as those Olympic champions. CBA is only a beginner paranormal. The raging ape you killed was only a B-class paranormal. The mighty elephant Tyson in Southeast Asia was only an A-class paranormal. I am an S-class paranormal, which is a super paranormal. I've killed several of your Huaxia martial Dao masters. How about it? Are you scared? Scared? That's funny. Master Kang's disciples never know how to write the word scared. The Ghost Kick's leg was bleeding, but his fighting spirit was surging. He swallowed the blood in his throat and roared like a tiger. He rushed out and poured his true chi into the bone whip. The bone whip suddenly became as straight as a spear and pierced the golden scorpion's chest. Kill! Shen Mange also jumped out with her sword. A sharp golden blade aura rolled toward the golden scorpion's head. You don't know what's good for you. The corner of the golden scorpion's mouth curved into a mocking smile. She met the bone whip with her palm and rushed forward to avoid the golden blade aura. Crack! 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 In the deafening explosion, the bone whip shattered like a firecracker. Finally, the golden scorpion's palm imprinted on the ghost kick's chest. The ghost kick flew out again. His sternum collapsed and blood spurted out of his mouth like an arrow. Senior Ghost. Shen Mange screamed and held the ghost kick. She saw that he was dying. His face was pale and his pupils were dilated. She was afraid that he would not be able to hold on. Don't worry about me. Stop this witch. The ghost kick struggled to get up. Blood kept oozing out of his mouth, but he ignored the bloody wound. He staggered toward the golden scorpion like a drunkard and muttered, I'm the ghost kick, Master Kang's servant. I'm ordered to protect the Jiang family. Anyone who dares to take a step forward will be killed without mercy. Ha, what a tough guy. The golden scorpion was slightly moved. As one of the 7 giants of the Great Circle, she had run rampant all over the world. She had seen many so-called strong people who would rationally choose to abandon their dignity and save their lives in the face of the threat of death. But the ghost kick at this moment was really amazing. Kill! Shen Mange shouted loudly. She rushed out and stabbed with her sword. It was extremely fierce. She only attacked and did not defend. She was completely fighting with her life. Cute little girl, I actually don't want to kill you, but you seem to want to die. The golden scorpion reached out and grabbed the flaming gold sword. She twisted it and made a screeching sound. Let go. Shen Mange tried to grab the sword, but she only felt that the sword was stuck in a huge rock. She could not pull it out at all. But since you want to die, you can die too. The golden scorpion smiled coldly. Her beautiful blue eyes flashed with killing intent. Then she used her fingers as a knife and slashed toward Shen Mange's neck. Shen Mange quickly dropped the sword and retreated, but she still could not avoid it. In the tragic scream, the sharp golden finger knife cut through her protective upstanding chi. Blood splashed. Her chest was broken, revealing her white sternum. The ghost kick attacked again. The golden scorpion was annoyed. She crushed the flaming gold sword and then grabbed the ghost kick's throat. She lifted him up and gnashed her teeth. Old man, let's see how hard your bones are. Senior Ghost. Shen Mange was covered in blood. She screamed and attacked again. The golden scorpion kicked her away. Crack. Shen Mange fell heavily to the ground. Her right arm was broken and the wound was torn. Blood dripped down. She spat out blood and gasped in pain. She was dizzy. But she still stood up. Her hair was disheveled and her body was covered in blood. Like a demon, she used the last of her strength and struggled to rush toward the golden scorpion. She shouted, I, Shen Mange, Master Kang's zither attendant, am ordered to guard the Jiang family. Anyone who dares to step in will be killed without mercy. Bang! Shen Mange was kicked away by the golden scorpion again. She stood up again and again, but she was beaten down by the golden scorpion again and again. In the end, Shen Mange was covered in blood and her clothes were torn. She fell to the ground like a bloody gourd. She struggled to get up, but she could not stand up again. I, Shen Mange, Master Kang's zither attendant, am ordered to guard the Jiang family. She lay on the ground. Her breath was weak, and a string of bloody tears slid down her temples and into her hair. Chapter 286. Go to hell. Golden Scorpion threw Ghost Kick to the ground and approached Shen Mange. Chi. A long golden saber condensed in her palm and chopped down at Shen Mange. Under the golden saber light, Shen Mange looked calm and murmured weakly, Master Kong, I can't do it. I've let you down. Just as she was in despair, a finger light suddenly pierced through the void and hit the golden saber light. The golden saber light suddenly collapsed. Golden Scorpion was shocked and took a step back. She looked at the door in horror. Who is it? Mr. Jiang, you're back. Shen Mange turned her head with difficulty and saw Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing coming in hand. She couldn't help crying with joy. Mange and old ghost, you've worked hard. Jiang Tian helped her up and hit her and Ghost Kick's wounds with several healing spells in succession. He also fed each of them a medicinal pill. What powerful medical skills! Under Golden Scorpion's incredulous gaze, Shen Mange and Old Ghost's injuries healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. If she hadn't hurt them herself, she would have thought that she had never hurt them. And the finger light just now was also very powerful. He deserves to be the peerless master who killed Lin Zhenyu. Golden Scorpion was shocked. Without hesitation, she stomped on the ground and the ground collapsed. She shot out like a golden arrow. In fact, Golden Scorpion didn't have the courage to fight with Jiang Tian. She knew that Rattlesnake was intercepting Jiang Tian on the highway, so she attacked the Jiang family. She wanted to hold Jiang Tian's family hostage and threaten or lure Jiang Tian to the high seas so that it would be easier for her to kill him. But that golden finger light really scared her. That power was a bit too strong. At this moment, seeing that Jiang Tian was treating Shen Mange and Old Ghost's injuries, she didn't dare to stay. She took the opportunity to run away. Since Zhao Xueqing was born, she was like duckweed, alone and helpless. Only Jiang Tian loved her and only the Jiang family gave her the warmth of a family. For more than a year, Shen Mange had been with her day and night and took care of her carefully. She was like a sister. Stop right there. At this moment, seeing the Jiang family in a mess with corpses piled up and Shen Mange seriously injured, she couldn't help but be angry. She couldn't hold it. And directly attacked Golden Scorpion with a shout. A strong and irresistible suction force came, and the Golden Scorpion, which had already leaped more than 10 meters away, was caught and fell to the ground. What a strong attraction force! Golden Scorpion was horrified. The moment her feet touched the ground, she let out a shout. Her strength sank, and the ground cracked and collapsed. Her feet sank more than an inch into the ground, and she ran again. Come here. Zhao Xueqing pulled. Golden Scorpion's feet were like plowshares, plowing 2 long marks on the ground. She flew up uncontrollably and fell at Zhao Xueqing's feet. Tell me, who is the financier behind Hidden Flower? I'll give you 3 seconds. I'll turn you into ashes. Zhao Xueqing's pure phoenix immortal body's aura rose steadily as she asked with a stern look in her eyes. According to the information, this seems to be Kang Teichu's wife. When did she become so powerful? Like a little white rabbit that had encountered a giant beast, Golden Scorpion retreated step by step with a look of horror, full of disbelief. While she was hesitating, Zhao Xueqing said coldly, 3 seconds are up. You can go to hell now. Zhao Xueqing's phoenix-like eyes blasted out 2 flames. She caught the flames and condensed them into a sword. With a swoosh, a 5-meter-long Li Fire Chi weapon slashed toward Golden Scorpion. You can't hurt me. Golden Scorpion roared. A Golden Scorpion phantom appeared in her body. It was as tall as half a person, its tail extended and swayed as it roared at the top of its lungs. However, the Li Fire Chi weapon could burn anything. With a high temperature of 10,000 degrees, it easily cut through the tall phantom and cut off one of Golden Scorpion's arms. Ah, it hurts. Golden Scorpion flew out and rolled on the ground in pain. She struggled and spasmed as she screamed. Interesting. Her blood is also golden. She's indeed an S-class arcanist. Zhao Xueqing blinked her beautiful eyes curiously. Then, her pretty face turned cold as if it was covered in frost. Tell me. Who is the financier behind this? If you tell me, I'll leave you with an intact corpse. Don't kill me. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. It's Big Circle. It's 6th Master Fan from Big Circle who killed Jiang Tian because he killed Lin Zhenyu. Golden Scorpion knelt and begged for mercy. She no longer had her pride and strength. She was scared out of her wits and shivering like a little rabbit. As an S-class arcanist and one of the 7 giants of Big Circle, Golden Scorpion was considered a knowledgeable person. However, this was the first time she had seen such a powerful martial artist like Zhao Xueqing. She even felt that even if Lin Zhenyu came back to life, he would not be able to last more than 3 moves in front of Zhao Xueqing. So, it's Big Circle, Jiang Tian shook his head gently and sighed. What a reckless thing. Honey, do you need to ask anything else? Zhao Xueqing was not good at interrogation. She turned to look at Jiang Tian. At this time, her face was adorable and cute. She no longer looked as decisive as before. No need. Jiang Tian waved his hand. Shen Mange and Ghost Kick were badly injured. Fortunately, their meridians and acupoints were not damaged. After careful recuperation, their skills could still be restored. Oh. Then I won't ask. Zhao Xueqing nodded. She raised her hand and a Li Fire Chi weapon slashed down from above. Boom! With a loud noise, a 20-centimeter wide and half-meter deep hole suddenly appeared on the ground from her feet to the Golden Scorpion. The Li Fire Chi weapon slashed toward the Golden Scorpion. Didn't you say you would let me go? Golden Scorpion was full of anger and unwillingness. She jumped up and tried to dodge the terrifying Li Fire Chi weapon. However, compared to Qinger, she was too slow. Crack! Crack! There was an ear-piercing sound. Shocking cracks appeared on the Golden Scorpion's metal-like body, covering her completely. Her head almost shattered, and she fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Humph, my husband said that we must eliminate all evil. We can't let the tiger go back to the mountain. Zhao Xueqing's soft voice sounded. It was a pity that Golden Scorpion could no longer hear it. Jiang Tian, Qinger, you are back. When Jiang Tian and Shen Mange walked in hand, the old master immediately led a group of people to welcome them. The old master held Jiang Tian and Shen Mange's hands tightly. He was so excited that his whole body trembled and he almost burst into tears. When the strong enemies attacked, the police could not stop them. However, when Jiang Tian and Shen Mange came back, they immediately turned the situation around. Grandpa, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry to have frightened you. Jiang Tian glanced at everyone apologetically. Jiang Tian, don't feel guilty. People who are not envied are mediocre. If you want to become a peerless master and look down on the world, how can you not make enemies and not offend people? The old master had lived a long life and was open-minded. He comforted Jiang Tian earnestly. Jiang Tian picked up Jiang Weiner and wiped the tears on her face. He comforted her softly. Weiner, are you scared? I'm not scared. Why? Because Weiner knows that Uncle is a Superman, a great hero. We will be fine. Jiang Weiner said crisply. Her naive words made everyone laugh. The tense atmosphere was suddenly swept away. Yes, when they saw Jiang Tian come back, they were immediately relieved. What kind of master could be Jiang Tian's opponent? Zhang Wanqing pulled Zhao Xueqing and asked in a low voice, Qinger, do you also have cultivation? N. Zhao Xueqing nodded with a face full of joy. Good, that's great. Zhang Wanqing was ecstatic. Jiang Tian put Jiang Weiner in his aunt's arms. He glanced at everyone and said calmly, don't worry, everyone. After tonight, everything will be fine. Jiang Tian, you must be careful. Yes, you must be careful. These bandits are very fierce. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian with concern. They were very worried. Now, Jiang Tian was the pillar of the Jiang family. If something happened to Jiang Tian, the Jiang family would be finished. Brother, you go. I will take care of things here. Jiang Chao patted his chest. TSK, you go and change your pants first. You are wet. Jiang Tian's words hit Jiang Chao hard. Don't expose people's shortcomings. Don't hit people's faces. Can't you give me some face in front of so many people? Forget it, honey. You have not recovered yet. Leave everything to me. Zhao Xueqing said softly. Jiang Tian pondered for a moment and said, "It is good for you to gain more experience, but let's fight side by side. Honey, with the villa as the central axis, I will be responsible for the left side. Yes, I will be responsible for the right side. Communicate with each other through divine sense. If anyone is in danger, the other one will come immediately. Yes. Not a single one of them can escape. Competition. Whoever kills the most wins. The loser will wash and massage the loser's feet at night." Qing'er looked at Jiang Tian provocatively. "No problem. Anyway, I will wash and massage your feet whether I win or lose." Jiang Tian shrugged nonchalantly. While talking, the two of them went out of the Jiang family's villa and stood in the yard. They looked at each other and then spread their divine senses in all directions. There was a loud rumble. Their divine senses spread out in all directions like a rolling tide, sweeping across every street and skyscraper, into every neighborhood, supermarket, hotel, and even a few kilometers away. In an instant, half of Jinling City was covered. Boom! With a boom, a torrent of information flowed into Qing'er's mind like a torrential river. It was the first time she had encountered such a situation. Her head hurt a little and her delicate body trembled slightly. Pass through the useless information and filter out the useful information of the powerful ones. The killer's aura is different from ordinary people. Jiang Tian said through divine sense. Understood. Qing'er replied. Her divine sense suddenly expanded to a height of 100 meters. Like a movie lens from God's perspective, she looked down at the brightly lit Jinling City. Then, the buildings became faint and the aura of the powerful ones swayed in the air like flames. These must be the powerful ones. They should be mercenaries. Qing'er murmured. In addition, she also saw some figures with obscure auras and hidden murderous intents. They were like venomous snakes waiting to strike. These were the killers. The nearest killers were actually hiding on the roof of a skyscraper less than half a kilometer away from the Jiang family's villa. Let's do it. Qing'er stomped on the ground and the ground trembled slightly. She had already shot into the sky like an arrow, drawing a beautiful arc and attacking the skyscraper. In the air, her posture was beautiful and her speed was fast, like a divine phoenix spreading its wings. Chapter 287. Tsk, if I don't rebuild my body, I'm afraid I will be defeated by this powerful wife. Seeing Qing'er's peerless beauty, Jiang Tian smiled with relief and also shot out. Qing'er has become a fairy. The Jiang family was dumbfounded and dazzled. They couldn't believe it. Hee, my son's wife, how can she be bad? Zhang Wanqing smiled proudly and was very satisfied. What's that sound? On the rooftop of the building opposite the Jiang family's villa, a sniper in black tights was holding a sniper rifle. He was hiding in the dark night when he suddenly heard a gust of wind. He couldn't help but feel alarmed and raised his head in shock. Then, he saw a shocking scene. Under the shadow of a full moon, a long-haired figure actually flew across the sky and descended from the sky like a goddess. Before the killer could dodge, Qing'er's foot had already descended from the sky. With a boom, Qing'er knelt on the ground with one knee. A deep pit appeared between her knee and foot. The cement ground cracked and collapsed, and the killer was instantly turned into a pile of meat paste. Her white clothes were clean and ethereal, but her petite body gave people a feeling that she was as majestic as a mountain. 1. Qing'er stood up, proudly raised her chin, and approached the remaining 4 killers. Congratulations, you've achieved the first kill. But I've already killed 2. Jiang Tian transmitted his voice to her through divine sense. The 4 gunmen shot in horror, and Qing'er raised her hand and waved. Chi! With a sharp sound, an 8-meter-long Ignis Chi soldier swept across. The 4 killers were instantly cut in half. Flames rose into the sky, and their bodies were burned to ashes before they fell to the ground. 5, I've overtaken them. Qinger transmitted her voice with a hint of pride on her face. The feeling of flying is really good. Every time Zhao Xueqing jumped, she would rise 100 meters into the air. Like a big bird, she soared in the air. Every cell in her body was cheering and jumping. The 48,000 pores all over her body were greedily absorbing the overflowing spiritual energy of the world, turning it into true essence and bringing her endless battle strength. The shackles in her heart had been broken, and the immortal physique of the stainless phoenix maiden had completely awakened. She could now fully display the peerless might of this immortal physique. She could even float in the air for a long time, and she felt a sense of freedom from gravity. While flying in the air, the little lass put the Sennheiser earphones into her ears, picked a song, and played it on a loop. Then, Cloudpiercer's voice bombarded her eardrums, exploding in the depths of her mind. It also caused her burning battle intent to explode to the highest limit, lose the watch and the coat. Drop the backpack and get rid of the TV and the computer. Lose the brain and lose the trouble. What is big and what is small? There are always people who disagree with everything. More hate than love. I just want to dance more and more crazy. Jump higher and higher, shake off the earth. My heart thumped wildly. In a flash, all worries are forgotten. I don't want it anymore. Wronged oneself for a second. Bang! Whoosh! Bang! Whoosh! Accompanied by the high-spirited and resounding music, the muffled sounds of Qinger's feet stomping on the ground and her body tearing through the air rang out continuously. It was extremely shocking. Qinger was like Wonder Woman or Wasp Girl, leaping up and down between the buildings. Her speed was even faster than Jiang Tian's, almost breaking the sound barrier. She streaked across the air, leaving behind a series of indistinct afterimages, almost exceeding the limits of human vision. With the cover of the night, no one would stare at the sky for no reason. But even if someone saw it, they would think that it was a large bird flying across the sky or a landscape searchlight streaking across the sky. Qinger took a step in the air and flew several hundred meters away. Once she landed, her hands would be stained with blood. At this moment, she was no longer that weak and pitiful girl who couldn't even truss up a chicken. Instead, she was a peerless expert who could kill with each step. Her supreme beauty could stop time and stun the world. Rattlesnake, Vampire Count Anthony, Huan Kun, and Raging Ape have lost contact. In a 5-star hotel room, greedy wolf Jin Taixian frowned as he looked at the explosive news on the dark web on the special computer screen. Jin Taixian was a Korean American. He used to be a marksmanship instructor in the U.S. Marine Corps. After retiring, he joined the U.S. Sky Eye assassin organization. He had a brilliant record and assassinated countless high-ranking political officials. He was ranked 6th on the global assassin ranking list. Who wouldn't be tempted by a hidden reward of $500 million US? That was truly a sky-high price. It could be said that this was the first time in the history of global assassination. But what really tempted him was the target of this assassination, the young Wu Dao master from Huaxia, Kang Tae-chu. The words, Wu Dao master, were taboo in the world of assassins. But on the other hand, it was also a symbol of glory. To be able to kill a Wu Dao master was a supreme honor for an assassin. A brilliant record not only represented a generous reward, but also a soaring status and value. Jiang Tian, it was Kang Tae-chu. Others might not know, but Jin Taixian had studied the target's information in detail. This rising martial arts prodigy, a young Wu Dao master, was said to be at the peak. He had once killed the leader of the Big Circle, Lin Jinyu, on Poyang Lake. A few days ago, he had suppressed the 8 strongest people in Southeast Asia and killed them at the peak of Mount Everest. Wang Chongyan was so furious that he came out of seclusion early. This prey was an extremely terrifying prey. Huan Kun, Raging Ape. You guys are too stupid. Jin Taishian chuckled, full of mockery. He knew that his target this time was a terrifying existence, so he had made ample preparations. He had bought a special sniper rifle, bullets, and a full set of equipment from a mysterious alchemist in Europe. The bullets were engraved with mysterious runes and made of special metal. They could penetrate armor, burn, and explode. They also had some black magic power and could even kill an Earl of the Blood Clan. Moreover, he was very patient. He planned to give himself half a year to kill Jiang Tian. Half a year, no matter how cunning a fox was, it would still reveal its flaws. It would not be able to dodge the hunting rifle of an experienced hunter. He would never choose to fight in close range like Anthony and Ruan Kuan. Close range was the style of a mercenary. Killing from a distance and retreating thousands of miles away to preserve their strength was the most rational and correct way for a real ace assassin. After killing Kang Tae-chu, he would become the #1 assassin on the royal assassin list. Moreover, there was a reward of $500 million. After that, he would buy a small island in the Pacific Ocean and bring his wife, who was teaching at the University of Pennsylvania, there. Just like Mrs. Bay, she would give birth to a football team for him. What a wonderful life. Thinking of this, Jin Taishian was full of fighting spirit and satisfaction. He walked to the window and observed the Yaowang Group building with a high-powered tactical telescope. Would the target appear here? It seemed that the mercenaries of Blackwater were going to the Yaowang Group building today. He seemed to value his family a lot. He should be there to rescue them. Are you looking for Kang Tae-chu? Suddenly, a soft but cold voice sounded behind him. The moment the voice sounded, Jin Taishuan's hair stood on end. The door was locked, and he had set up an alarm. The windows were closed, and the whole room was airtight. How could someone come in? Jin Taishian, who had never failed in his assassination with 103 CI, naturally understood what this meant. A person who could appear behind him silently was like a sudden clap of thunder, a fatal threat. Bang! He turned around and fired a shot at the illusory figure. With a silencer, the sound of the bullets being fired was not loud. Instead, it was especially dull. A woman. A very beautiful woman from Huaxia. Kang Tae-chu's wife. Moreover, she did not fall, she did not die. Seeing the person clearly, many thoughts flashed through Jin Taishuan's mind. He was shocked to see a shocking scene. Zhao Xueqing's slender fingers were holding a golden bullet. The bullet had been squeezed out of shape. Jin Taishian didn't even have the time to fire a second shot before a small, jade-white hand grabbed his throat. Crack! Jin Taishuan's neck was broken. Blood spurted out of his aorta, and his head hung down weakly. A red flame spurted out from her hand and enveloped him. The body was instantly burned red, and the bones and organs could be seen clearly. Then, it turned into ashes. The 18th one. Honey, I'm too ahead of you. Ching patted the dust off her hands. Then, her figure flashed, and her delicate body suddenly became faintly discernible. She then disappeared from where she stood. The 17th one. However, I may overtake you. There are many monsters in the Medicine King group. There are more than a dozen of them. At this time, Jiang Tian had already appeared in the lobby of the Medicine King group's building. He was talking to Qinger through divine sense. He frowned. There were 3 mercenaries and assassins' bodies on the ground. However, there were more bodies of Huaxia's police officers. They were messily piled up, dripping with blood. It was a shocking sight. There were even bullet marks on the wall that made people's hearts palpitate. Monsters? Killing monsters? Honey, you're funny. Zhao Xueqing could not help but laugh. Then she said, I have 3 more here. I'll go over there and team up with you after I kill them. Okay. You're attacking the Medicine King group. You're asking for it. Jiang Tian smiled. He raised his hand and burned the bodies of the assassins into ashes. Outside the door, police sirens were wailing and lights were flashing. More than a dozen riot police cars surrounded the Medicine King group. Break in. Protect the Jiang family and the Medicine King group at all costs. We, the Huaxia police, will never compromise with terrorists. Secretary Yu was burning with anxiety. He personally took command of the operation and classified it as a serious terrorist attack. The provincial police department, the municipal bureau, and the armed police gathered together. Many anti-terrorist vanguards were dispatched. However, he was once again beaten to a pulp by his opponent. Don't come in, Secretary Yu. I'm back. Suddenly, a voice rang out in Secretary Yu's mind. Secretary Yu was stunned. Master Kong is back. Did you hear that? He asked in a daze. Yes. He's really back. Many police officers heaved a sigh of relief. How's the situation over there, Master Chiu? In the corridor outside the CEO's office on the top floor of the Medicine King group, Li Jinwei was covered in blood. He was wrapping the deep wound on his wrist with a bandage while panting into the walkie-talkie. Bodies were piled up at his feet. There were security guards and police officers of the Medicine King group, as well as 7 or 8 enemies. What he had experienced today was the most dangerous battle he had ever experienced in his life. 3 waves of assassins had attacked him. Chapter 288. Some of them directly charged in from the lobby on the first floor, brazenly assaulting the police and rushing upstairs. Some used parabolic guns to shoot from the opposite building and used ropes to slide in. Some wore winged suits and flew to the rooftop like bats, attacking from the rooftop corridor. One wave after another, the mercenaries were like locusts that could not be killed. They were all fully armed and carried heavy weapons. They could be considered a private army, and some of them were even espers. Under such circumstances, the police force was wiped out in less than 10 minutes. Don't worry, we won't die. Protect Miss Yi and Professor Huang well. Qiu Gong was 1 floor below in a room. He leaned against the wall and sat on the ground, panting heavily as he laughed boldly. His chest was shattered, and a piece of his shoulder was shattered. Blood kept oozing out of his mouth. This old fart, his bones are so tough. I shot him once, and he's still taking it head on. At the end of the corridor, there were offices and bathrooms. 17 or 18 Blackwater mercenaries were scattered around, some with guns and some with cold weapons. The Blackwater mercenaries, also known as the Blackwater Security Consulting Company, were security guards in name, but their equipment was better than the regular American Army. They had played an important role in the Iraq War and were known as the special forces outside the American government. The ones dispatched this time were the strongest elites of Blackwater, and all of them were famous on the mercenary list. Qiu Gong held the white ape bone knife in his right hand and a grenade in his left. He had taken it from the mercenaries and was prepared to die together with them if they rushed up. He was about to bleed dry. There were 3 gunshot wounds on his body, and the one on his shoulder was penetrated. He could not even lift his hand. Suddenly, there was a bang, and dust flew. The walls on the left and right were blasted apart by miniature explosives. Without waiting for the dust to settle, 7 or 8 mercenaries rushed in from both sides. Qiu Gong wanted to pull the grenade, but there was a bang. Out of instinct, the mercenaries pulled the trigger, and bullets burst out. Qiu Gong's wrist holding the grenade was bleeding. He jumped to the side before the grenade could be pulled. At the same time, 8 crossbow spears were aimed at Qiu Gong's legs and fired randomly, the sound of sharp weapons piercing into flesh filling the air. Qiu Gong staggered back and leaned against a tree trunk behind him. His trousers were dripping with blood. He smiled tragically, showing the solemnity of an arrow at the end of its flight. He waved at the people in front of him and gritted his teeth. If you have the guts, spar with me. Duke Qiu was unwilling to accept this. How could he be forced into a desperate situation by this group of trash who outnumbered him? This was a great humiliation. I have always admired the martial artists of Huaxia. Behind the 8 people, there was a tall man with well-proportioned muscles. He was armed with loaded guns and looked handsome. There was a black cloth on his head, and he looked very capable and cool. He was a handsome foreign man with a gentlemanly demeanor, but he had a nickname that did not match his appearance, Satan. Chidon was the word for devil in the Bible. This man used to be the devil's chief instructor who was revered and worshipped by 2,500 people of the Delta Force. NATO's 3 armies called him the most powerful creature in the North American continent. Now, he was the chief consultant of the Blackwater mercenaries and the most powerful existence among them. You, face the camera, admit defeat, and I will not kill you. Satan raised his gun. His Chinese was a bit shaky, but his smile was full of mockery. The martial artists of Huaxia had brought him too much humiliation. He wanted to regain the dignity of the world's top mercenaries. Bullshit. Duke Chiu cursed. Satan roughly understood what bullshit meant. He sneered and aimed his gun at Duke Chiu's forehead. Duke Chiu straightened his neck and did not blink. He wanted to see how he would die with his own eyes. For a moment, he thought of Ye Gufeng, the heroes of Jiang Bei, his life of glory, and Jiang Tian. His heart was filled with sorrow. He was not someone who was afraid of death. If he could not see these familiar people in the future, he would not be able to let them go. It is inevitable for a general to die in battle. I have lived my life in vain. Unfortunately, Master Kong, I did not follow your orders to the last one. In the next life, I will still be your dog and create endless glory together. Duke Chiu raised his head and waited for death. There were 2 mercenaries guarding the door of the office. Suddenly, a sharp noise came up and the 2 men turned around. A shadow was already in front of them like a ghost. The 2 men were shocked and didn't have time to shoot. A sharp and cold light flashed across the air. The 2 mercenaries stood there blankly as their eyes gradually lost focus. A thin red line appeared from the top of their heads to their crotch. In the next moment, the red thread suddenly expanded, and with a crashing sound, the 2 bodies were split in half from the middle. Steaming internal organs spilled out onto the floor. A shadow flashed into the room like a ghost. A few wind blades slashed out in all directions. The wind blades came one after another, like a dragon of wind blades, without any gaps. The 7 mercenaries who had shot Duke Chiu fell to the ground, dead. Even their helmets and bulletproof vests were broken. Transcendent Grandmaster, Kang Tae-chu. Satan dodged the wind blades with extreme speed. He looked at Jiang Tian in fear. He had never thought that Jiang Tian would be able to attack him so quickly. Hee, you are not bad to be able to dodge my wind blades. Jiang Tian sneered. He didn't even lift his gun and shot out 8 wind blades. Ah! With a shrill scream, Satan was sent flying into the air by the wind blade. He crashed into the wall and slid down. His entire body was bleeding profusely, and even the specially made desert eagle made of pure gold had been cut in 2. Huaxia's martial arts is indeed powerful, Satan uttered these words. His eyes widened and his head tilted to one side. He was dead. Master Kong. Duke Chiu was taken aback. He leaned against the wall and laughed hysterically. Tears welled up in his eyes. He was in complete despair, but he suddenly saw hope. He saw Grandmaster Jiang descending from the sky like a god. The huge psychological gap made this unyielding martial artist unable to bear it. He wanted to cry to his heart's content. Duke Chiu, how does it feel to be in front of the gates of hell? Jiang Tian squatted down and removed the bullets and arrows from his loyal ally. He took out a bottle of black jade ointment and used it all in one go. I don't feel anything. From the day I stepped onto the martial arts path, I expected this day to come. Seeing Jiang Tian carefully treat his wounds, Duke Chiu's eyes were filled with tears. He was moved. He leaned against the wall and laughed. He lit a cigarette and said, I really have one foot in the door. 18 years later, I will still be a hero. He had spent his life killing. He had experienced life and death and was already numb to death. Live well. If you die, what will happen to your wife and child? Jiang Tian said with a smile. After treating his wounds and casting a few healing talismans, Jiang Tian once again charged upstairs. At the same time, Qing'er also rushed over and swept through the floors below. Screams filled the air as enemies fell one after another. The husband and wife fought side by side. It was almost a one-sided massacre. 10 minutes later, the two met in the CEO's office. Jiang Tian said with a smile, I killed 53. How many did you kill? 58. Remember to make breakfast tomorrow. Zhao Xueqing smiled proudly and pushed open the door of the CEO's office. Mr. Jiang is here. We are saved. Seeing Jiang Tian and his wife come in, Huang Zhihui, who was praying with a pale face, and all the middle and high-level executives cheered. Yi Ziwei, who had been trying hard to keep calm, could no longer hold it in. Her mind relaxed, and crystal-clear tears rolled down. Honey, there were 32 batches tonight. More than 100 mercenaries from different organizations fell together. This should be enough to shock most of the Dark World's elites, right? Standing side by side with Jiang Tian in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, Zhao Xueqing, who had calmed down, looked down at the bright night sky and smiled. These killers and mercenaries were all famous figures on the Imperial Assassin leaderboard. They were enough to shock the dark forces that coveted the Jiang family. No, it's not enough. Jiang Tian stood with his hands behind his back and shook his head slightly. A sharp murderous intent flashed in his eyes, and he said coldly, we still need a real tycoon. Kill him, and those forces will be shocked. Only then will they understand the real cost of offending the Jiang family. Who? Zhao Xueqing asked confusedly. The supervisor of this operation, one of the 7 tycoons of the Great Circle, the sun god Apollo. Jiang Tian said with a smile. Before he finished speaking, Jiang Tian's powerful divine sense was pushed to the limit, and it shot straight into the clouds like a raging sea before smashing down with a loud bang, pushing in all directions and completely enveloping Jinling City that had a population of a few million. Under the powerful divine sense of the soul-sculpting secret art, the vast Jinling City seemed to be transparent to Jiang Tian. Nothing could escape his divine sense. Found you. Jiang Tian's lips curled into a cold smile. His divine sense had already locked onto a ball of light that was as bright as the sun. It was extremely powerful and blazing. Jiang Tian pushed open the window and directly burst out, and instantly fell on the roof of a building more than 100 meters away. Honey, let's go together. Qing'er shouted and quickly used her movement skill to follow. This, jumping off the building? No, she flew. Everyone was stunned. They had seen an unforgettable scene. Qing'er has also become a cultivator, and so powerful. Yi Ziwei was shocked. Oh, Mrs. Jiang is a dragon among men. She is worthy of Jiang Tian. How can my daughter compare to her? Seeing this, Huang Zhihui was shocked, but there was a burst of sadness in his heart. Yuhua Stone Park, late at night. It was pitch black, and there were few people around. The operation failed. More than 100 mercenaries, including Golden Scorpion, this Kang Te Chu is so powerful. On the Yuhua Terrace, in the middle of the dense forest, a handsome blonde young man was holding a jade plate-like instrument with a dignified face. He was wearing a tuxedo, holding a walking stick, and wearing leather shoes made by an old Italian shoemaker, like an old gentleman. In his hand was an instrument with signs of life, made by an ancient magician from Western Europe. More than 100 tiny rubies were inlaid on it. When the target was still alive, the rubies would keep flashing. Once they stopped flashing, it meant that the target was dead. Just half an hour ago, the rubies stopped flashing. In the end, the entire jade plate-like instrument became dark and gloomy. The air is so thick. Is it going to rain? The weather is terrible. The handsome Apollo looked up at the sky and said gloomily, "Eh." Suddenly, Apollo felt a chill. He looked up into the sky and frowned. What a powerful mind power. I didn't expect Hua Xia to have such terrifying mind power. I thought Hua Xia only knew martial arts. Kang Te Chu is indeed extraordinary. But of all things, you shouldn't have provoked our great circle. However, in the next moment, Apollo chuckled. His eyes flashed with a scorching white light, like the sun's rays. His eyes pierced through the void and looked into the distance. A terrifying murderous aura rose from his body. He snorted. Since you are here, I will kill you. I even saved the Great Circle 500 million in reward. Chapter 289. Dark clouds gathered in the sky above the city. The dark clouds shrouded the tall buildings, and the slightly cold winter rain sprinkled down with some ice particles. In the sky, several kilometers away, above the buildings, under the dark clouds that seemed to be close to the roofs, two black dots flew like lightning bolts, dragging two white tails made of rain and air. Their speed was so fast that it was suffocating, as if they could break through the sound barrier. Two people. The other flying person seems to be Kang Te Chu's wife. Apollo's eyes flashed with golden light as he clicked his tongue in wonder. Hua Xia's Qinggong in martial arts is so powerful. This speed, this extraordinary time in the air, is comparable to Butterfly Lady, Black-Winged Batu, Wind Man, and other flying-type arcanists. Apollo opened a violin case at his feet, and inside it was a golden longbow. The longbow was engraved with complex runes and vine-like plant lines, as if it was an exquisite work of art made by a master craftsman. Just based on its appearance, even people who knew nothing about the world of cultivation would think that it was definitely not an ordinary item. However, it's a pity that you met me. Whatever spiritual power or flying ability, when you meet my Helios golden bow, you will all die. When Apollo drew the golden longbow in his hand, golden flames began to burn and condense on the bow. A flame arrow condensed from crimson flames appeared on the golden string of the golden bow. I will kill you and achieve a greater reputation than Lin Zhenyu, and become the #1 magnate in the circle. Like Ho-E shooting the sun, Apollo drew the bow to a full moon and released the bowstring. Chi! The flame arrow carried a rumbling sound as it pierced through the rain, evaporating white smoke as it shot into the sky. In the air, the flame arrow was getting closer and closer. Jiang Tian and Qing'e used their movement techniques, and like dragons playing with phoenixes, their bodies flipped up and down, dodging the flame arrow. Boom! The flame arrow missed, but 3 kilometers away, the top of a building was grazed by the flame arrow. Suddenly, the wall collapsed, and the top 3 floors exploded as if they were bombarded by a cannonball. Beside the Qinhuai River, which was only a few kilometers away from the Yuhua Stone Park, there was a vast manor that was brightly lit and filled with distinguished guests. Anyone who was familiar with the upper class of Jinling would know that this manor was overseen by a powerful figure who could shake Jinling and even the entire Su province. Jinling, Su Zhenlei. In the past few years that Su Zhenlei had been in seclusion, this manor had never been as lively as it was today. Only an old servant and Su Ruocheng were present. But at this moment, all the overlords in Jinling and even Su province were gathered there to congratulate Su Zhenlei. Because today, this peerless powerhouse who had suppressed Jinling for decades had finally come out of seclusion, and his cultivation technique had reached the large success stage. Father, you should have reached the peak of the transcendent state after 5 years of seclusion, right? Sitting down, Su Ruocheng raised her wine glass and toasted her father with a smile, but there was a trace of bitterness in the depths of her eyes. Now, Jiang Tian's forces had already taken control of Jinling, and he was also controlled by Jiang Tian's, heart bursting with joy, charm. He didn't even dare to mention his father's grand declaration of unifying Jinling on the day he broke out of seclusion. The peak of transcendent state. It's not that easy. An old man in his 60s was sitting on the armchair. He was wearing a purple silk training suit, and his silver hair was combed into a slick-back hairstyle. On his thumb was an antique imperial glass-type ring. He looked around with a smile, and his eyes were as sharp as a hawk's. He was indeed a formidable figure whose name had shaken Jinling for decades. Once you reach the transcendent state, you will be called a grandmaster. As for those who have reached the peak of the transcendent state, Huaxia can only count them with 2 hands. They are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. For example, Lin Zhenyu of the Great Circle, Hua Qingtian of the Central Plains, Yi Wudao of the Jiangxia Province, Wu Yingxiong of the Southwest, and Li Tuofeng of the Northwest. Which one of them isn't a powerful existence? He shook his head a little regretfully and said, if I reach the peak of the transcendent state, I can sweep the entire Su province in minutes. I can even wrestle with Yi Wudao and take down Jiangxia and Zhonghai. Su Ruocheng wanted to say something but stopped. Her old father had been in seclusion for too long, and he didn't know that the world of martial arts had undergone earth-shaking changes. Li Tuofeng and Lin Zhenyu had both fallen in the Martial Arts Society convention last year. Su Zhenlei's face showed a hint of pride and said, however, I have reached the peak of the transcendent state during my seclusion this time. I can defeat ordinary internal force experts in one move. I think that Master Kong, whom you all have been talking about, is only at my level. Dad, Su Ruocheng's face was awkward. Jiang Tian could even kill Lin Zhenyu with one move. How could her father be as powerful as him? Ruocheng, you don't have to say it. I have already received the report. A sharp glint flashed in Su Zhenlei's eyes. He said coldly, that Master Kong has defeated the Nye family and other forces. He has dominated Jinling, and even you have to be cautious. However, after I come out of seclusion, I will behead that Master Kong and conquer Jinling. He had reached the peak of the transcendent state and reached the peak of the transcendent state. He felt that no one in Huaxia could stop him except for Hua Qingtian. As for Master Kong, he could kill him with one move. Dad, please don't. Su Ruocheng was about to tell her father about Jiang Tian's power. Suddenly, a loud boom came from afar. Then, the earth shook as if there was an earthquake. What is it? It's late at night. Why is there an explosion? Everyone rose to their feet and looked out of the window. Fear was written all over their faces, but they couldn't see anything clearly. However, Su Zhenlei had reached the peak of the transcendent state and his senses were far sharper than ordinary people. There is a fight between 2 powerful overlords. Su Zhenlei's face darkened. He walked out of the door and leaped onto the roof of the mansion. He looked toward the direction of the Yuhua Terrace. Su Ruocheng and many other experts also came up, looking at the 2 sides fighting with fear on their faces. I didn't hit him. Apollo, the god of sun, was taken aback. The next moment, rays of golden light rose from under his feet. His body grew taller and taller, reaching a height of dozens of meters in an instant. He floated in the air like a deity. By then, Jiang Tian and his wife had also reached the top of the Yuhua Terrace. They were only a few hundred meters away from Apollo and they stood face to face. Jiang Tian said lazily, Apollo, you are just a legend. Do you really think you are a deity? How dare you offend the Jiang family and cause trouble in Huaxia? You must be tired of living. Don't be so arrogant, you brat. I don't believe that I can't hit you. Apollo roared and pulled the bowstring to the fullest. A flaming arrow pierced through the air and pierced through the rain, leaving a trail of white steam in its wake. The flaming arrow covered the distance of a few hundred meters in a blink of an eye. It was as if the flaming arrow was still on the bowstring a moment ago, and the next moment, it was right in front of Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian didn't dodge at all, while Qing'er's pure phoenix immortal body's true essence rose steadily and soared into the sky. Suddenly, a hemispherical translucent golden shield appeared around the 2 of them. The flame-like brilliance flowed on the shield, looking extremely gorgeous. Qing'er and Jiang Tian were mentally connected. She knew that although Jiang Tian's cultivation method was powerful, his body was still mortal. However, she had the advantage of the immortal body's protective aura, which was much stronger than Jiang Tian's ability to withstand attacks. The tyrannical scarlet flame arrow was actually blocked by the barrier. Then, starting from the arrowhead, it was as if it was being devoured bit by bit. Sparks flew everywhere and shattered inch by inch until it was finally worn out. What is that? Qi cultivation into Qi shield. Su Zhen was horrified. How could there be a shield that could devour the flaming arrow? In the sky, Apollo couldn't believe it. He took a step back and shook his head. Impossible, how is this possible? What the hell is that? Many years ago, Apollo was besieged by the super soldiers of the United States of America's Blue Storm. Those super soldiers were equipped with the most advanced kinetic skeletons made of titanium alloy. They were all armed to the teeth and could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground. However, Apollo only used 3 arrows to kill all the super soldiers. The titanium alloy armor even melted into liquid. Among the 7 tycoons of the Great Circle, Apollo was the most unconvinced of Lin Zhenyu's strength and thought that he could kill him with 1 arrow. However, since they were on the same side, they didn't have the chance to fight. This time, when Jiang Tian came, he was actually more excited than scared. He was determined to win. If he could kill Jiang Tian, who had killed Lin Zhenyu, he would be the most powerful fighter in the Hong sect. But now, the situation that was originally under his control suddenly changed. This made Apollo very angry. He raised the golden longbow in his hand again and pulled out a flame arrow. I don't believe that this arrow can't pierce through you. The white light under his feet flickered as he shot up into the sky again. Amidst the drifting drizzle, he suddenly pulled open the golden longbow. The golden bowstring tightened and released again. 4 flame arrows condensed on the bowstring and shot out in unison. 4 flame arrows shot towards Jiang Tian and his wife, who were standing in the middle of the winter rain like lightning. Apollo's feet stepped on the golden light as he dashed around Jiang Tian and his wife. Since speed was the key, there was no reason for him to stop. Apollo leaned forward like a leopard and turned into a flash of light. With Jiang Tian and his wife as the center, he drew a circle of golden light. During this process, the bowstring buzzed and vibrated. One after another, the flame arrows were shot out in a concentrated manner. In the blink of an eye, he had fired 23 flaming arrows. These flaming arrows were more violent than the previous ones, but they were not hot at all. Unlike the previous flaming arrow, they were calm and steady. However, when these flaming arrows were 3 meters away from Jiang Tian, they suddenly heated up. The air around the flaming arrows was distorted and blurred. Drops of cold winter rain turned into puffs of green smoke as if they had been dropped into an invisible pot of hot oil. 23 flaming arrows came from all directions. They were getting closer and closer to Jiang Tian and his wife's protective light shield. 3 meters. 2 meters. 1 meter. After a meter, under Apollo's expectant gaze and his excited cry of, "Explode," they all exploded at the same time. These were not ordinary flaming arrows. They were explosive arrows. The sun's energy was concentrated and it only exploded at the last moment. Such explosive arrows could even vaporize special metals. They could even kill count-level members of the Blood Clan and Hua Xia's martial arts transcendent masters easily, not to mention 23 of them. I believe that not even a drop of blood or a wisp of ash will be left behind. Apollo roared happily in his heart. Then, he cursed in frustration, "Fuck, I forgot to record this wonderful video." Chapter 290. The torrential winter rain fell 3 meters above the Qi shield of the Phoenix Maiden immortal body. It was as if it was pulled by an invisible force and became slanted. If it moved a little closer, it would splash out. The Qi shield of the Phoenix Maiden immortal body was like a transparent giant umbrella, blocking the bitter wind and rain outside. My wife is so powerful. You left me far behind. I admire you. Jiang Tian seemed to have not realized the danger that was close at hand, and he made an exaggerated expression of wanting to cry but having no tears. It could be said that the power of the stainless phoenix fairy body was beyond Jiang Tian's imagination. The qi shield had already held on for a minute. Qing'er rolled her eyes at him, as if she found his flirty talk boring. When the 23 flame arrows exploded at the same time, Qing'er's pretty face slightly trembled. Her cherry lips slightly opened and she shouted, "Break!" Before the voice had even faded, the 23 flame arrows all strangely stopped in the air, unable to move an inch further. The still image was very strange. It still maintained a certain moment of the explosion process. The flame arrows were like bright red flowers blooming around the qi shield, trembling slightly and swaying. In fact, this image only lasted for less than a second. The next moment, the qi shield suddenly expanded, swelling and vibrating. Bang! The flame arrows were no slower than the previous ones and shot out like a fairy scattering flowers. Zhao Xueqing's shout of "break" seemed to be able to transcend the scope of space and time, rising hundreds of meters high in the sky. At the same time, it sounded like thunder in Su Zhenlei's sea of qi. Dong! 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 Su Zhenlei felt as if his heart was being held by an invisible hand and began to beat violently like a war drum. His body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Feng Yi was awe-inspiring. This was a kind of spiritual pressure. Once used, it could suppress a transcendent grandmaster. Then Su Zhenlei saw a flame arrow explode after being knocked away by the qi shield. Dodge! Su Zhenlei, who couldn't dodge in time, screamed and punched out like a cannonball. Boom! An earth-shattering sound came as Su Zhenlei was sent flying 7 or 8 meters away. A large part of the roof collapsed. "Oh, darling, it seems that we hurt the onlookers." Zhao Xueqing was so shocked that her face turned pale. She was very upset. Even though she had awakened her immortal physique and become a supreme beauty, the gentleness and kindness in her heart had never changed. "Don't worry, I won't die. I think it's Su Ruoqing's father," Jiang Tian said lightly. When Apollo detonated the flame arrow, he had used his psychic energy to control it. Now that the flame arrow had bounced back, it was a serious blow to his psychic energy and physical body. He fell to the ground like a silly quail whose wings had been broken and spat out a mouthful of blood. Apollo jumped to his feet, his whole body trembling with anger. "Kang Te-chu, what's going on? Tell me, what is this? What is it? An idiot like you won't be able to understand this. A piece of trash like you wants to kill me. You're far from Lin Zhenyu's level." Jiang Tian sneered and said with disdain, "Since you've shot so many arrows, it should be my turn. I won't accept this. Go to hell." Apollo was burning with rage. He raised the Helios golden bow in his hand and started to draw an arrow with his right hand. A platinum-colored flame arrow appeared out of thin air. This arrow could kill even a half-step immortal state cultivator. On the roof of the mansion, Su Zhenlei was alarmed. This arrow was much more terrifying than the flame arrow earlier. Just the condensation and formation of the flame arrow was enough to crack the rocks under Apollo's feet inch by inch. Some of them even melted into boiling hot lava. Suddenly, everyone was shocked to see, from the dense forest, a white beam of light shot up into the sky, illuminating half of the sky and tearing the thick curtain of night into many pieces. Then, the beam of light flashed and shot towards Jiang Tian. "Qing'er, let's work together. Unleash the flame arrow." Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and sent a telepathic message. "Okay, hubby." Telepathic messages were much faster than verbal messages. Qing'er had sensed Jiang Tian's intention the moment he had thought of it. Then, her eyes flashed with golden light. She used the flame arrow of the phoenix eyes and a 5-meter-wide golden flame was condensed. Whoosh! Jiang Tian caught the flame and condensed it into a blade. Whoosh! With a sound, a 10-meter-long crescent-shaped flame arrow slashed down from the sky like a shooting star. This is Flame Chi weapon. He's like an immortal. Su Jinlei was shocked and his heart sank to the bottom. He couldn't even resist Qing'er's shout, let alone Jiang Tian's Flame Chi weapon. Only a half-step immortal state cultivator could unleash the true Qi of the 5 elements. Once a martial artist entered the immortal state, he would be like an ant. At this moment, all the talk about challenging Jiang Tian and unifying the Jinling city, these lofty aspirations and hot-bloodedness disappeared faster than a pile of cow dung in winter. Is this Lady Jiang? She is indeed a peerless beauty. Only she is worthy of Grandmaster Jiang. Su Ruocheng looked up at the 2 figures in the sky. There was no jealousy in her eyes, only endless admiration. She only felt that they were like an immortal couple. This kind of beautiful thing always made people want to look at it more. The improper thoughts she had towards Jiang Tian that she had hidden in the bottom of her heart also collapsed and crumbled at this moment. Boom! The platinum-like flame arrow, which could pierce through a giant ship, was cut in half by the Li Fire Qi weapon as if it was made of paper. Then the Flame Qi weapon came down violently. You can't kill me. Apollo raised his bow to block the attack. At the same time, his body expanded with golden light. But it was useless. The golden bow and arrow flew out of Apollo's hand, and the protective golden light was useless. Amidst the gushing blood and a shrill scream, Apollo's right arm and shoulder were chopped off and fell to the ground. The Phoenix Goddess immortal body was one of the 12 immortal bodies in the cultivation world. The flame chi from this body could melt gold and iron. It could not burn anything. No matter how strong Apollo was, he was just a mortal. How could he resist it? This was the terrifying power of the immaculate Phoenix Goddess immortal body. You dare to kill me? I am Prince William, one of the 12 main gods of the Western Palace of Gods, Apollo. Seeing Jiang Tian coming closer, Apollo was terrified. He wanted to scare Jiang Tian away. I'm so scared. My little heart can't take it anymore. Jiang Tian smirked, his finger light hit the air without any hesitation. Bang! Apollo's head exploded like a berry. Red and white matter sprayed all over the ground. Apollo, one of the 12 main gods of the Palace of Gods and one of the 7 giants of the Great Circle, was dead. When Su Jinlei leaped over, he saw this shocking scene. Master Kong, Su Jinlei was scared out of his wits. Like a primary school student meeting his teacher, he bowed respectfully. He was scared to death. This Master Kong was too strong. He killed a peerless expert like Apollo with just one slash. I'm sorry, my wife injured you just now. Here are 2 pills for you. Jiang Tian casually threw out a pill bottle and smiled, revealing his white teeth. But in Su Jinlei's eyes, Jiang Tian was no different from a giant beast with its mouth wide open. He was so scared that he almost jumped up. It's okay, it's okay. Thank you, Master Kong, for giving me the pills. Su Jinlei trembled as he knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Let's go, Qing'er. Jiang Tian smiled warmly as he held his beloved wife's hand, and then his figure flashed and vanished in the veil of night like a ghost. When the great changes in Jinling were announced on the dark web and spread to the west, the whole dark world was shocked. If Jiang Tian killed Master Qing Lian and the rest on the peak of Mount Everest, he only suppressed the forces in Southeast Asia. This time, the massacre in Jinling suppressed many forces in the world. On the dark web, there were screams and cries of shock. The #1 assassin organization in Asia, Dark Shadow, including Wan Kun and the Berserk Ape, was wiped out. The elites of the Butterfly Skull and their ace assassin, Rattlesnake, were wiped out. The famous Transcendent Eye in the United States lost 5 elites, including Jin Taixian. The Blackwater mercenaries lost more than 20 elites, including Satan. Bloody and Totem were even more upset. A blood descendant at the level of an earl could fight a martial Dao master. For them, Anthony was a rare and powerful pillar, but he died just like that. It was a great loss. dozens of famous assassins and mercenaries on the royal assassin leaderboard were killed. Hundreds of top assassins gathered in Jinling were wiped out overnight. None of them escaped. The most terrifying thing was that none of the Dark World elites managed to escape. One had to know that these experts were all wanted by the police of various countries. They were best at running for their lives, but all of them had still fallen. This showed how powerful Jiang Taichu was and how ruthless he was. The news was like a magnitude 12 earthquake to those who participated in the assassination and those who did not. In fact, apart from killing Jiang Tian, the elites came to Jinling to test the strength of the Huaxiaolong formation and martial Dao. After all, for a long time, Huaxia was considered to be a forbidden place for mercenaries and assassins. However, it was such a huge market that everyone wanted to take over. Many forces were paying close attention to this incident. If the elites from the Dark World won and escaped unscathed, they would be able to do business in Huaxia. Who would have thought that the Dragon Group didn't even make a move, but their lineup, which could only be described as heaven-defying, was completely annihilated in China overnight. This made them even more terrified and fearful of that mysterious country. In the middle of the last century, before and after the founding of Huaxia, the West suffered a great loss in the earth-shattering war. They thought that after decades of recuperation and hiding their strength, they had the capital and strength to make a comeback. However, this assassination had shattered all their confidence. Then, another piece of breaking news came. Golden Scorpion and Apollo, two of the 7 leaders of the Great Circle, participated in the battle and encountered Kang Taichu. Both of them were killed by Kang Taichu. Apollo's identity was also exposed. He was one of the 12 main gods in the European pantheon. A real leader. Even these two were dead. For a time, countless assassins and mercenaries from the Dark World were trembling in fear. The $500 million bounty became a hot potato, and no one dared to accept it. The entire Dark World was shrouded in sadness and worry. How many experts wouldn't seek revenge for the smallest grievance? They did not kill him this time. Once he recovered, they were afraid that he would launch a crazy revenge. Chapter 291. West, Mount Olympus, Pantheon of the Gods. It was majestic and filled with holy light. A mighty and imposing figure sat on a golden throne inlaid with gems. He looked down at the many experts below the platform and said in a dignified voice, "You're right. Apollo has fallen in Huaxia, but we, the Pantheon of the Gods, will never take revenge. He was the father of the gods, the strongest powerhouse in the Western Arcana world." Zeus. Artemis, also one of the 12 main gods, frowned with hatred. Why not? This is the first time in 100 years that a main god has fallen. This is a great humiliation to us. We must launch a bloody revenge. Apollo betrayed the Pantheon, became a fighter for the Great Circle, and even colluded with the Blood Breeds. This is even more humiliating for us. Zeus's majestic eyes flashed with divine light, suppressing the doubts and dissatisfaction of all the powerhouses. Even Artemis was shocked and took a step back. Zeus said with hatred, "If Kang Taichu hadn't killed him, we wouldn't even know of his connection with the Great Circle. Immediately contact Yizhantian of the Huaxiaolong formation, express our friendship and goodwill, and express our strong condemnation of the Great Circle on the international stage." Yes. Below the stage, the Western powerhouses responded in unison. Las Vegas, still in the luxurious conference room. However, the atmosphere of this meeting was particularly dull, filled with a pessimistic and horrifying atmosphere. Huaxia's military must have made a move, or even Yizhantian himself. Otherwise, Golden Scorpion and Apollo would not have fallen. Little Five, the head of North America, said with hatred. Intelligence shows that Jiang Tian has a close relationship with the Huaxia military. He once served as a martial arts consultant for Zhan Long and also provided a large number of special drugs to the military. Many of the powerhouses said nothing. If Jiang Tian was only strong individually, it would not matter. After all, no matter how strong he was, how could he compare to a super organization like the Great Circle? But if he had the backing of a major country, it was too scary. Sixth Old Man Fan was silent for a long time with a gloomy face before waving his hand sadly. First, remove the hidden flower bounty and stop all activities in Huaxia. All members of the Great Circle will withdraw from the Huaxia market. Everyone nodded their heads speechlessly. Little Five pondered for a moment before suggesting, Sixth Master Fan, let's start using the Great Turtle Island base in the Pacific Ocean. I'm afraid it's not safe here, bullshit. Big Turtle Island, Big Turtle Island. Do you want me to be a coward? Sixth Old Man Fan flew into a rage and smashed his beloved antique purple clay cup, which was worth millions of yuan, onto the ground, causing it to shatter. Big Turtle Island was a private island that Big Circle had purchased with a large sum of money. There were many fortifications built on top of it, and there were thousands of private soldiers. Moreover, the base was located 100 meters below the ground, so it was not afraid of rocket artillery attacks. It could even withstand Dongfeng penetrating missiles. During the long development of the Great Circle, there had been a period of more than 20 years when it was considered an illegal organization. They had set up their headquarters there for fear of being ambushed by powerful experts or suppressed by large countries. However, the Circle grew too strong and became a legal organization and enterprise. Sixth Master Fan could even lobby the United States Congress and drink and chat with important politicians. Who would be willing to hide in the dark underground? Therefore, they moved their headquarters to the Lisboa International Casino in Las Vegas, where they enjoyed the prosperity of the world. It was not easy for them to come to the light of day, but now they had to move back and become a rat in the dark again. How could Sixth Master Fan take it? He was so angry that he was about to explode. Sixth Master Fan, please calm down. I know my mistake. Little Five was so scared that his face turned pale. He knelt on the ground and trembled. This kind of organization was like an independent kingdom, and its hierarchy was strict. If Sixth Master Fan wanted to kill him, no one could stop him. Get out. Sixth Master Fan waved his hand and coughed violently. All the big shots retreated in fear. Sixth Master, are you moving or not? At this time, a seductive Chinese woman walked out from the side room and asked in a coquettish voice. Move. Move quickly. Prepare a private plane, we're leaving now. Sixth Master Fan's anger dissipated, but the more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. He quickly got up and rushed to the private airport under the protection of many powerhouses like a rat crossing the street. Just like that, Jiang Tian joined hands with Qing'er and bathed Jinling in blood. With the deaths of more than 100 experts in 23 batches as a signal, the strongest voice was sent to the dark world, truly becoming famous internationally. Kang Te Chu. This three-word song had finally become a taboo name in the hearts of many dark world organizations. When Hidden Flower's bounty on the dark web was removed, many experts were in an uproar, their hearts palpitating. From the actions of the sun god Apollo and the golden scorpion, everyone could tell that this was the dark net of the Big Circle. On one hand, there were only a few organizations in the world that could afford 500 million USD. They were limited to the Cherry Blossom Society, the Chinese Society of Singapore, and the Big Circle. On the other hand, Kang Te Chu had killed one of the 7 big shots of the Big Circle, Lin Zhenyu. They already had a grudge against each other, and this time, 2 of the Big Circle's experts were involved. Lin Zhenyu was also a super big shot, but he had lost to Yi Zhantian and went into seclusion for 20 years. His influence in the dark world had gradually faded, and his name was not as well known. But the Golden Scorpion and Apollo were different. They were very active and had a glorious record. They could be said to be world-renowned. Especially Apollo, who was also one of the 12 main gods of the Hall of Gods, was even more famous than Lin Zhenyu. But these 2 big shots of the dark world died in the hands of Kang Te Chu. They were killed with a single slash, and even their heads were blown off. Anyone who saw the photo of Apollo's corpse was terrified. What was more frightening was that the big circle did not increase the reward and take revenge. Instead, they chose to remove the dark net and even moved their headquarters to Big Turtle Island. This made people speculate. It was too shocking. It can be said that Kang Tae-chu alone suppressed the famous Big Circle. Which organization dares to provoke such a powerful expert? In the future, no one will accept Kang Tae-chu's orders. No, don't even go to Huaxia anymore. Such discussions were everywhere on the dark net, and after the Big Circle removed the dark net, it became even more chaotic and reached its peak. For a moment, many strong people of the dark world were shocked when they heard the name, Kang Tae-chu. At this time, a day and a night had passed since the bloodbath in Jinling. The Jiang family mansion, which was like a typhoon, had been repaired and restored to its original state. In the study, Jiang Tian sat on a rocking chair. On the coffee table were the Heavenly Court black sword, Gengjin iron rod, the set of armor, and Apollo's golden longbow. Qing'er, these are all treasures. Which one do you like? Jiang Tian asked with a smile. He had continuously swallowed healing and qi-nourishing medicine. After the bloodbath in Jinling, the medicine circulated throughout his body and nourished his organs. His true yuan was abundant, and his physique and cultivation had been completely restored. Can't I have all of them? Qing'er leaned against Jiang Tian and smiled mischievously. Ha, of course. Jiang Tian looked up and laughed. He was overjoyed to feel Qing'er's drastic change. This change was not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of mentality. She was more cheerful and confident than before. It was as if the life that was originally curled up had completely unfolded. I'm kidding. Qing'er smiled and patted Jiang Tian's head. Baby, you're too weak. I'll leave these armor and weapons for you to protect yourself. Big sister is so powerful. You don't need them. Jiang Tian wanted to cry but had no tears. However, he also knew that Qing'er was telling the truth, so he did not hold back. He summoned flames and spent a day of hard work using various materials to carve a flying array, a protective wind array, a transformation array, and many other arrays on the sword. The flying array could convert the vast spiritual energy between heaven and earth into kinetic energy for the treasured sword. It could even break the sound barrier. And the protective wind array was necessary. It could protect the user from the interference of the airflow. Otherwise, it would be very easy to form an afro like the punk. And the transformation array was a temporary measure that Jiang Tian did not have a storage artifact. Once the array was activated, he could become the size of a needle. Mortals would not be able to see him at all. He could even avoid X-rays and pass through airport security. After all, in modern society, carrying a treasured sword in broad daylight would seem too chinibu. If he enlarged it, it would be a long sword that was 10 feet long. Only then would it be convenient to fly. In addition, there were concealment arrays, noise reduction arrays, and so on. Finally, he branded his own divine sense and turned the Heavenly Court's black sword into his own flying sword. When the divine sense branding was completed, Jiang Tian immediately felt a connection with the Heavenly Court's black sword. The black sword was like a butterfly, happily flying up and down around Jiang Tian. It was extremely agile. Wow, it can fly by itself. Qing'er was amazed. She was deeply impressed by the profoundness of cultivation. Go! Jiang Tian's divine sense moved. Swish! There was a sharp sound. The black sword drew a streak of light and shot into the sky. It instantly turned into a small black dot and disappeared. It had completely surpassed the speed of sound. Return! Jiang Tian shouted. The black sword seemed to appear out of thin air and flew in front of Jiang Tian. From now on, I will call you Little Black Sword. Jiang Tian held the hilt of the sword and felt a sense of pride. It could be said that with this flying sword, his combat power would increase tenfold. He would not be afraid of even half a step away from the immortal state. Then, Jiang Tian refined the Gengjin iron rod again. The art of the rod was about being domineering and fierce. As the saying goes, the rod can sweep through a large area. However, what Jiang Tian liked was an elegant and otherworldly fighting style. Thus, he sharpened the two ends of the iron staff, and thickened the middle, forming a black iron flying shuttle. There were also countless small formation runes inscribed on it. When Jiang Tian was done with all this, he branded all the Dharma treasures with his divine sense and made them his and Qing'er's Dharma treasures. It was already the next morning. To his surprise, the big-breasted policewoman, Lin Menghan, who he met by chance at the gas station, rushed in with a few police officers. Jiang Tian, you are suspected of organizing illegal activities and multiple murders. You are under arrest. Upon entering the living room, Lin Menghan said arrogantly with a frosty expression, "You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."